It's a total scramble, emergency mode for the unbeaten Horned Frogs. Hypno-Toad in a hurry. Griffin Kell for the win. TCU is undefeated still. Wow!
Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Fourth sack by Ohio State. From his own end zone. Again, ball's in the air, and it's a score. Still Chambers.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Rising, throws across the middle, and that one's intercepted. He was trying to get it to Kincaid, and Bennett Williams comes up with his second pick of the game.
Sikkim 365 Radio is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Thompson Robinson surveying, delivers, intercepted by USA. Corey Foreman, and the Trojans pick off Dorian Thompson Robinson for the third time.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
With 12 seconds to go, it is good! And all of the biggest dreams are still alive here in Ann Arbor. A 2-point lead over Illinois with 9 seconds to go.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Well, guess who is still undefeated? You heard Jason Benetti in the call from Fox at the game at McLean Stadium early in the afternoon on Saturday as TCU with a dramatic gut-wrenching loss for Baylor, a dramatic, exhilarating win for TCU that almost, in a way, resembled 61-58, except this time they won on a field goal with no time remaining, and not quite the score, but still the circumstances the same back then. Both teams, Baylor and TCU, in the hunt early on, and then, of course, now it's TCU. Is Texas still alive to play for the Big 12 championship? Movers and shakers in the top 25, upcoming bangers, some injuries in college football, and the World Cup has started. Wales and the United States are tied at 1 right now in that opening match.
Just wrapped up.
Yep.
So
there's a tie. Draw. Today we're loaded up with guests on Michigan, Ohio State, also Baylor, Tim Brando, Fox Sports, Cowboys with David Hellman, and also former local high school star Kavian Gaither at Sam Houston State linebacker will join us today. Their season's over. He'll join us today at 4 o'clock. There is so much to get to, and I don't even know where to start other than you heard the call, Jason Benetti. We have the TCU call with Brian Estridge, who's phenomenal at what he does. But Paul Catalina, that win, no matter what happens this week or in a bowl game, that win would have put at least a little bit of a better taste on the 2022 season if you're Baylor. And now you're looking at could be 6-7 because I don't know how you get back off the canvas, although they surely did in that game Saturday.
Well, we'll see who they draw in a bowl game and what the matchup is there because they'll have time to really prepare for that one. But I think it goes from, one extreme to the next of, you're about to ruin your rival season and then they just very smoothly took it right away from you. And that's kind of been TCU late in games is that field goal was a microcosm of the season of everything's fine until there's zeros on the clock, right? So as long as there's time on the clock and you're within striking distance, you can win the game. And that's how they approached it. I would say that at the end of it, what you have to do is what's the difference between Baylor and TCU? And Baylor should know this because a year ago they were that team that in the moment when you have a minute and a half left and you need to get one first down, they got it. This year they didn't get it. TCU in the games this year, when they need to get a first down, when they need to get the ball here, when they need to get it out of bounds, whatever they need to do in that moment to win the game, they do it. You've got to calmly walk the field goal team on or run the field goal team on the field and kick a 41-yarder at the end. They did it. It was flawless what they did, Sonny Dykes, and what TCU did. Craig Smoak, we're there. It was a phenomenal game. Yeah, neither team, that wasn't flawless. That's why it was a great game, because it's never a perfect game. But what an ending. It was as if it got silent on one end and explosion in the purple, who had a great crowd at that game at McLean Stadium.
Yeah, I mean, it's not if. That's what happened. I mean, yeah, there was a huge explosion by the Frogs fans there in attendance at the end of that game because of, as big of a play in that program's history as there has been in recent history. I mean, this is a magical year. You can talk all about what Patterson won previously or what others what Francione did back in the day, but they're unbeaten with 1 week to go in the regular season and not in some, Western Athletic Conference or anything like that. It's the Big 12. I mean, this is the college football playoff era, and they are 2 games away from playing in the college football playoff and being the first Oklahoma Big 12 team to get there. Nobody's gone undefeated in the Big 12 regular season. They can do that against a team that, quite frankly, is just an embarrassment on offense right now in Iowa State. I mean, they are dreadful offensively. So I have no doubts that TCU wins that game this weekend. It's in Fort Worth. I understand Iowa State's defense, but Tech had to score 14 points to win this weekend. I feel confident TCU can manage that. And I know crazy things can happen, but I'm just not banking on it with the Cyclones at this point. So TCU staring dead ahead at a 12-0 record, and then just whoever they match up with in the Big 12 title game, which, yes, could still be Texas. But the favorite would be right now Kansas State, obviously, if they just handle their business against KU, who got whooped this past weekend by Texas. So still some things to sort out there. But, yeah, TCU, just have to give them all the credit in the world for being resilient and for never, ever giving up. As cliche and corny as that can sound sometimes, I mean, it's not that cliche or corny when you realize that's what's taking them to 11-0 right now, is just continuing to believe no matter what the circumstances are, no matter what the score is, no matter how much time's left, no matter where they're playing. They don't let all that outside BS infiltrate them, or even if they do, they don't let it affect them. It's the complete opposite of this Baylor team, who every time we even start to have any expectations for them, it's like there's alarm bells that go off of uh-oh, this is about to, go sideways because, people are, paying attention or putting too much on their shoulders or what have you. And just for the Baylor side of things, man, let me off this ride this year. I mean, this season has been not awful, not horrible in any type of way. There's been some memorable moments, but every single time they turn the corner or seem like they're going to, or every time they have a big opportunity, for the most part, they just don't know how to handle it, and or they just can't seal the deal. And Saturday, it was there for the taking, man. I mean, that game was as there for the taking as you could possibly have. Get a first down, and they couldn't do it.
On back-to-back drives.
Get another here. That we took that away from you. You didn't get that. Guess what? Extra Christmas present. Here's another opportunity. All you have to do to get a win that would basically reverse the entire outlook of your season is get one first down. That's all. You almost got close this last time. Here's another shot at it, and they still couldn't do it. And yes, you give credit to TCU's defense, but this is also symptomatic of just this entire year and their shortcomings. And I've been saying it, they're going to look back at some of these games when the year's over, whether it's in a month from now or 2 years from now, they're going to go golly, man, we really just had so many opportunities, and they could never, ever just get over that hump.
Especially when that maturity hits on some of these guys, when they do, because there's going to be a lot of guys that I know fans are mad at right now because things aren't going well, that are going to mature and do great things, but they're going to look back on it and be like, oh, this is why what we should have done. This
That's
is the
what you
first
hope.
down. That's
Yeah.
what you hope. I want to play these two calls because I do think it's a microcosm of TCU and how people from the outside see things and people from the inside see things. So here is Jason Benetti's call. You heard it in the open. I want to play it again, and then we'll have Brian Estrich's call.
This is the ending. TCU has the ball. This is the last few seconds, about 25 seconds or so as the clock is running. They're about to run another play, or they just ran another play.
Yeah.
And now it's a total scramble, emergency mode for the unbeaten Horned Frogs. Hypno-Toad in a hurry. Griffin Kell for the win. TCU is undefeated still. Wow!
Okay, so that's Jason Benetti and then Brock Heward at the end there, who are great. They're great. And it was described, right, as a mad dash, emergency mode. I want you to hear, and this is from the Learfield Sports Network for Brian Estrich, our friend. Brian's done this a long time. He's does a great job. He doesn't need flowers from me for that, but I did text him about that this morning saying how smooth it was. But this is pretty much how TCU hears it in their head
and
on the field.
Listen to Brian, as calm as he was, too.
Yeah.
Snap comes. Handoff goes. Right-hand side is Steve McCardo. Down he goes in the 23. So you got to get your field goal unit out. 15 seconds. Plenty of time. Take your time, fellas. You're at 10. Relax. You're at 9. Griffin Kell. 41-yard effort. Middle of the field for the win. Snap, hold, kick Griffin Kell. Plenty on it. And Griffin Kell has nailed it. Bow! How about that, boys? The Frogs survive here in Waco. Kell nails it.
They have won 4 consecutive times since 61-58 in Waco, Texas, including that one on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, but I just think that you see that like that, and from the inside, you got time. They knew it. Just knew that was how it was going to be. They had plenty of time. And then if you watch the video with his voice over it, you can see TCU is not scrambling at all. They're hustling for sure, but it wasn't like they didn't know it was going on. There wasn't a guy running on the field late. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. They were totally ready for it, and they walked out there and did it. And that's what Sonny Dykes has done to this team.
It was a phenomenal moment. If a guy trips, if an offensive lineman flinches, game's over. There was the question about the substitution rule. That's not in play when a team is lining up to kick a field goal on the last play of a half and or on the last play of the game. But, Craig, you nailed it. You could feel the frustration. And if you are Baylor, there was one play on the final drive that led to the field goal. The Duggan quarterback-like draw where he had to avoid one player who really wasn't in his way that got about 15 yards or so. Then it was over. You could kick the field goal. But there was a play, I think, either right before that, I don't remember, second down it may have been, when Duggan was pressured, scrambled, and Bryson Jackson, who's a hell of an athlete, was chasing him to the sideline, and he couldn't get Duggan before he was able to basically spill out of bounds. That right there is a huge moment on Duggan hustling to get to the sticks and the sideline. The clock stopped. You didn't have to waste a play with a spike of the ball. You didn't lose any extra seconds. Max Duggan over 300 yards. He wasn't perfect, but on those drives, that drive right there, he hit and did whatever he had to do. Tough loss, brutal loss for Baylor, and they've had a couple of 2 or 3 of those this year. They have Texas on Friday, and my question about that is, and I was asked this by a UT podcast with Chip Brown over the weekend. So you did get up off the canvas from what was humiliating, having your soul taken from you on Saturday by Kansas State. They did. I mean, that would have been a hell of a nice win, and they did almost everything they could within the reasons of knowing that nothing's perfect. Emotionally, get back up for a game that doesn't have anything on the line for you. It does for Texas, perhaps. In fact, it does. I don't know, and I'm not going to question whether they're going to give it full throttle, and I know it's UT, everybody gets – I don't know. Can Dave Aranda and his staff do that back-to-back weeks? One from when you were humiliated, that's easier to get yourself back up, or one right here where you actually had somebody reach inside of your chest and take out your football heart? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm tired of playing mind games with this team, and the whole psychological aspect of them is puzzling and, could be its own talk show, seems like on a week-to-week basis. So at this stage, I'm not sure if they're able to or not. I think they can. Yeah, I think they can absolutely get up and go play. I don't think necessarily every week has to be some build-up and some grand, like, this is what you're fighting for. All those Dave Aranda makes it sound like they almost have to have that. And then again says how it's a distraction. Like the whole, well, it's big noon kickoff. It's a night game. It's wearing all black. It's a top 25 opponent. I can't tell on any given weekend whether they hyperventilate over that or whether it becomes a distraction because they're feeling themselves too much after a couple of wins. I don't know. I would expect this team will show up in Austin knowing it's their last regular season game and be ready to play and shoot. They'll be on the road, so they'll probably feel more comfortable when all is said and done. But, Texas is certainly going to have something to play for. I would think just seeing that, Longhorn logo, knowing it's the last time you're going to play those guys, for many, that would be enough to fire you up. But, I guess there's always the chance that they could be deflated at this point. I would sure hope not, because it's not like there's, nothing left to play for still. There's pride. There's, not wanting to finish below 500. There's, just the fact that you'd like to go out on a high note for many of these seniors. And, I think that now you're looking at, the possibility of 6-6 coming up this weekend or 7-5 coming up this weekend. And then depending on that, you could win 8 games at most, or you could win still just the 6 games you've already won, which means that you could go like 2 months without winning a single game to close out the season. So I would hope that would be enough motivation to get you back up off of the canvas. But I started to write this in an article, and I didn't want to make it 2,000 words. But how do you guys look at this year as far as failure, disappointment? Because not failure, but just disappointment. Because I look at it and I think it's fair to have expected some extra losses after 12-2. I think it was fair to expect there would be a little bit of a downslope. But at this point, man, this is even beyond. I don't care how many seniors you replaced, and you lost Jalen Petrie and JT Woods and all these guys. You also had a bunch of guys coming back, and I understand that there were some gaps to have to fill over the course of the first few weeks. But you look up, they're 6-5, and very likely going to be 6-6. And then who knows, maybe 6-7. This does beg the question of when people talk about reloading a Big 12 title team. I don't think you just do that right now in the way that Baylor is constructed. But you need to be closer to that than closer to you win a Big 12 title game and then you go all the way back to 500 ball and barely making a bowl game or making one and then not winning any other games after that. There is an expectation, and I don't think that expectation should be every time you win that it takes you a couple years to get geared back up. But that's what this almost feels like is, they just need to build it back up. And I don't know if that's, fair criticism or not, or that's just part of the process and they're still building to get there. But my question would be, how do you build to get there then from here? Because even the most negative Nellies, I can't imagine had them finishing much worse than they're probably going to end up finishing, and that's where they're going to finish.
I think it's fair to say that you had the first year, which was a cluster, at 2-7. The COVID, whatever, a lot of teams, even like Penn State and a couple other teams that are, pretty good programs went in the tank. Then last year, Dave Aranda's a genius, and a lot of it is also his personality and his type of personality and how deep thinking he is. But let's not forget that there were a lot of guys on that team that were a part of a previous coaching staff. And they had some play better even than they did under a previous coaching staff because they were a year older. They had a lot of 5th or 6th year type players. They had NFL-style players. This team had 3 things you want. Offensive line depth, quality, defensive line depth and quality, and you had a quarterback coming back that was your starter that you chose back in the spring. And that's another topic we'll have with Blake Shapen at some point today. Ricky Thompson will join us at around 4:30 on that. To me, disappointing is at least the word of what this is. You win that game Saturday. You didn't. Forget about West Virginia. Forget about the other losses, Oklahoma State at home, whoever it was. You win that game yesterday, there's a different feel to this team no matter what you do in your last couple of games. Not because it's TCU, not because they're unbeaten, but because it would have been one hell of a nice win to close out your home schedule.
Yeah, you're due to beat them at this point. Like it's silly how
Oklahoma State was due to beat Oklahoma after 100 and some years, and they've done it like 10 times. And they did do it last year. I know.
I'm sorry, but there's a big difference between Oklahoma and Oklahoma State and TCU and Baylor. There's several national championships difference in that series. So, I mean, I get what you're saying there, but yeah, credit to TCU. I'm not saying that comment either is like a Dave Aranda's, is he the guy? Like, I'm not saying that. That's not entering my brain in any way, shape, or form. I'll let other people have that conversation, which they do every time their team loses. All of a sudden, the coach is on the hot seat. I'm not that guy, but I do think he's got to look in the mirror again this year and go like what is this? What direction is this going? What is this going to be? Because I do think that the stage that you're sitting at right now, it's one thing to drop some games after the run you had last year, be totally understandable, but the fashion in which they're doing it and the rate at which they're doing it's just like, come on, like this is even beyond the worst kind of outcome that you could have expected, barring health issues.
Well,
in
2018, they go 7-6, win their last game after having blown a tire against TCU. They beat Texas Tech to get bowl eligible, win the bowl game. That's a completely different 7-6 because that's on the uptick. And then, of course, we know this is going backwards. And when you're picked to win, and this is one of the differences, and we can bitch and moan and complain and all that other stuff about blue bloods and the rankings and preseason polls and whatever else, there is something about being good year in and year out that's hard. Now, Baylor has been good 10 of the last 12 years. They have been, in some cases, on the edge of elite in some of those years. But 1-11, we understand the transition from the scandal and the coaching change. 2-7, okay, coaching transition and COVID. But they have been really good 10 of the last 12 years. And so this is a step back. It will be interesting to see who they are Friday, and then no matter who they play sometime in December in what will be a middle-of-the-pack or so bowl game. I don't know. But, yeah, you're right. We almost seem to grade this team based on psychology, based on emotions, based on this and that. There was a tweet from a player after the game. Hey, if you all, be careful. Watch number 2. You get off my quarterback's back. We saw that when Charlie Brewer and that team flamed out in 2020, and there's something going on, and you know what? It might be they damn sure shouldn't have been picked to win the Big 12.
Well, that's clear.
Yeah.
That's obvious. I think my question is you don't expect them to win 10 games every single year. I'm not that guy, but at what point do you reach a point where you're not going from 12 to 6? Where it's that precipitous of a fall off.
You go from 12 to 9.
Yeah.
And I think that would have been absolutely something that could have been expected this year, even 8-5, 8-4. I remember, I'll bring it up, Craig, when we gave our preseason predictions. Craig said 8-4. Some people on the board lost their minds. Where are the 4 losses going to come from? And you could have been wrong too. Sure. And we've been wrong before. When I always thought that, under even the years that they won Big 12 titles, okay, this would be a nice year, step up and win 9. They won 11. There's no way in 2011 we expected them to go, 10-3. Hell, you were hoping to get back to a bowl for a second consecutive year. So we're going to be wrong and right on some of those things. But where are the 4 losses going to come from? Well, we found out there were 6 of them, or 5 of them, and there might be 6, and there might even be 7. The chat room is going on. Text line is 254-339-1122. Now, a couple of other notes, and Paul, great to have those highlights from both Benetti and Brian Estridge, who's as good as anyone gets in that business. There's some other college football notes. Let's go down the list, Garrett. Let's do one again. The World Cup, America, the United States and Wales, 1-1 draw. The Biletnikoff semifinal is released today. There are 2 different pages here that Garrett's going to show you. Jordan Addison, the repeat winner. Bowers, Georgia. There's Nathaniel Dell from Houston. Downs from North Carolina, who dropped what would have been the game-winning touchdown in the loss they had. There's Zay Flowers, Marvin Harrison Jr., the elite player from Ohio State. They always have somebody, and it's sometimes not even the guy you thought, who, because of injuries they've had. Xavier Hutchinson, over 100 catches, I think, for Iowa State. There's Hyatt. Man, they lost Hendon Hooker to an ACL and blown out by South Carolina. Quentin Johnston We've had him on this show. Charlie Jones is unbelievable from Purdue. Rice and Stokes from SMU. Stokes, by the way, is also a high school kid from the state of Texas. Finalist announced. Well, I know, but he's SMU. And so is Quentin Johnston. Bolitnikoff Award will be announced on December the 8th. Finalists will be released a week from tomorrow.
Yeah, this is a tough one to vote for. Right now, if I had to just pick my three, it would be in no particular order: Hyatt, Quentin Johnston, and Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers.
If you looked at, we like Quentin Johnston, but have you seen his numbers?
Yeah.
Really, the last 4 weeks, he's had 2, 3, and 4 catches.
Most of these do, like I voted for several this weekend. It's you pick your top three. He would be my third, and I think part of the reason I would do that is because he has scored in so many clutch moments for TCU.
Against Texas 2 weeks ago,
Yeah, I think he deserves a little bit of that. Jalen Hyatt might be my number one because he just came out of nowhere and was so dominant for the big, meaty part of the season. Although I would lean almost towards Brock Bowers because he is a force, an absolute force.
Yeah, he's made some what looked like he's made some big plays, but he's got 30-something catches. I know he's a tight end. He's got 30-something catches and like 3 touchdowns. I thought he had like 10. Craig, you know these guys because of the Earl Campbell Tyler Rose Award. Who would you say among that list of 12 would be your three? If you want to give us three.
Yeah, I don't know. I need to actually sit down and compare because like there's names that pop that are like Marvin Harrison Jr. Okay, he's the best wide receiver in the country, but like I need to. Do I know that for sure? I need to like compare him to these other guys, and off the top of my head, I don't have.
His catches are down a little bit, but his average per catch and touchdowns that ratio is really good. Addison's numbers are down, even though what a win for USC against UCLA, and Caleb Williams was phenomenal in that list as well. Downs again has had a big year. Dell has almost 100 catches or so. On the second page, you go to that second page, Garrett, if you don't mind again. Charlie Jones, he is an alpha. Yeah. And so I know that name may not get a lot of pop because Purdue's been average. That kid right there, that young man right there is a hell of a wide receiver. He's a hell of a wide receiver. Here's a story involving Texas Tech and Tyree Wilson. Remember, he got hurt. This is a letter. This is the graphic, the image he put up on the site that he's going to bypass his senior year and enter the NFL draft. He has been as good as advertised, maybe better. Knew he was going to be pretty good. Long, angular, lanky, strong, disruptive. And so he's had a heck of a career at Texas Tech.
Yeah, he's one of the best edge rushers in the entire country. And, I think he'll be highly coveted in NFL circles. I mean, there's been talk about him in that regard going back to, last year. And certainly not the finish that you'd like to have. But Tech's going bowling. So congratulations to Joey McGuire and the Red Raiders on accomplishing that feat by going up to Ames and getting a win, eking out a win there, and did their job and now have a chance to, beat Oklahoma and maybe win 7 games in the regular season. So that'd be a huge accomplishment for them. But yeah, I mean, it'll be tougher to do without Tyree Wilson. He'll be a first-round draft pick to which degree will remain to be seen as he goes through the circus. But best thing he can do is get healthy rather than help Tech win any more games. He did his job doing that over the years, and so now it's time for him to get into NFL mode, and that's understandable. So best of luck to him. He'll be a guy we're definitely still talking about quite a bit here over the next few months, but tough blow for them, no doubt.
Hendon Hooker. Garrett, do you have that one or not? The Hendon Hooker, out for the year with a torn ACL, has had a dynamic year, a productive beyond anyone's imagination. Went out in that loss to South Carolina. It was just one of those nights. Rattler and South Carolina were fantastic. Hooker's out, torn ACL. There was a point, even up into the weekend, where they still had a very good chance to get back into the college football playoff. Now they have the loss earlier that knocked them out to Georgia, but still alive, and now they're done. Still a hell of a year by Josh Heupel and the Vols, but Hendon Hooker also was a leading candidate to win the Heisman Trophy as of even up to 2 and 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, I would scrap those orange helmets for all time now if I'm TCU because I'd be superstitious as hell about
Tennessee.
Or Tennessee, sorry. If I were Tennessee, and I would burn whatever uniforms North Carolina was wearing as well. Maybe you go back to those colors, but. You don't look a possible backdoor sneak into the college football playoff in the eye and lose to Georgia Tech. I'm sorry.
Third-string quarterback at Georgia Tech, I believe.
Yeah, exactly. So, you don't.
Yeah, that was shocking.
You don't do that. So, it's a bad weekend for Tennessee, bad weekend for North Carolina. I would venture to guess that no matter what happened to anybody throughout the weekend, it was not as bad as it was for those two teams.
No, unless you lost a gut-wrenching game when you
Baylor was already out.
Yeah, no.
So
you're right. All right, so also one other note about Tennessee: Josh Heupel today declined to address Jeremy Banks, their linebacker. He did not play in the game against South Carolina. Quote was, "We anticipate Jeremy being with us here this week. And as far as what transpired and those type of things, at the end of the day, he was not available." He was asked about any kind of altercation with a player or teammate, and Heupel would not answer that particular question.
Well, that needs to be dug into. That needs to be dug into by whoever, because if he's not saying, then there's a reason why he's not saying, obviously. And so, that could be like nothing. That could be like a girlfriend broke up or something, but that could also be.
It also could be that question because somebody heard that might have been the case,
right.
too.
It could also be something that actually happened in that direction, or it could be like, we just don't want you to know what it is, and we've run into that situation. And so that's why I'm saying, you just better be careful with that and smart with that. But, I'm sure that he'll continue to get questions about that, but tough blow for the Vols. And it was funny. I saw one guy who was making the comment about, when I guess TCU was in a struggle with Baylor about, TCU's overrated and the Vols would crush them and all this stuff. And then by the end of the day, he had thousands of, quote tweets and replies, after Tennessee then found themselves on, the receiving end of a brutal loss to knock themselves out of the playoffs. So it's just funny, man. You got to be careful if your team's playing later in the day, especially. You talk too much trash on Twitter, and then by the end of it, a few hours later, you are the guy who's on the receiving end of all of that crap. And one particular Vols fan was. I'm sure there were others, but that was funny to see and brutal at the same time, because just 2-3 weeks ago, here they were, and that was this magical ride. And it's still a terrific year, but it has lost a tire now. And I hate for Hendon Hooker that he had to be a part of them, kind of limp into the finish line here because he was so terrific and such a great, player for them. So, that's tough, and hope he's able to recover quickly and bounce back.
All right, so there's a lot of you in the chat room, and some of you are bringing up the Bolitnikoff Award, and Roger Dodger makes a great point. Addison had 11 catches, 175 yards, and might have caught, I think, one of the clutch touchdowns in that back-and-forth game on Saturday evening. No question he should be on the list. I was talking about numbers compared to everybody else, and even Quentin Johnston's numbers are down a little bit. Bowers being a tight end is not the same. But, again, big-time moments. And you're going to bring back the winner from the year before. Caleb Williams might have put his name right in the middle of that conversation for the Heisman Trophy with 1 week left in the regular season. Now, one of the big upsets in that – I have a note about I got to do this to close out the segment. We're going to get into men's basketball a little bit today. The World Cup again draw, United States and Wales. Got a video of Shane Beamer, who to me is maybe the next Bo Pelini. We're not going to run it right now. We're going to run it in the next segment. He is somewhat at times almost unhinged, but he is just an emotional guy. And that was an incredible win for the program. But what he did yesterday with his team to show them and keep them in perspective, to me, was fantastic. I want to share that with you in just a second. But my stat of the weekend, this is like old man college football porn. Navy beat UCF in an upset. Big-time upset, right, Paul?
Yeah.
They ran 64 plays, Paul. 63 of them on the ground. Now, again, I know the game's different. Yeah, I know. It's what they do. That's what that's what they do. But they beat UCF in a shocking upset, and 63 of their 64 plays were on the ground because that's what the midshipmen do.
That's what they do every week. I mean, I've had Texas quarterbacks that I've had to follow because the Earl Award, and the guy has 20 rushing, attempts, and he's 0 for 2 passing. Yep. I mean, they don't throw the football ever, hardly ever. So that's not surprising.
I think UCF wasn't ready for it. It's hard to practice.
It is absolutely.
And
yep.
What UCF has been able to do the last couple of weeks, so they got in this hot streak after the ECU loss, was make teams run with them a little bit. That's what they did to Tulane. That's why they beat Tulane. Like, they got out, made Tulane run with them. John Rice Plumlee is just go, go, go. And then Navy comes in and pours cement over the whole field, and so the whole game is in wet cement, and UCF just wasn't ready for it.
There's a note about former West Virginia athletic director Shane Lyons on the chat room. We'll get to that as too. We'll throw that in there. But coming up next, Shane Beamer and what he did with his team yesterday during their team meeting. A note on former Wisconsin All-American star Melvin Gordon and much more. Man, what a weekend. We have evidence. The chat room, we appreciate you. Text line 254-339-1122. You and us and college football next on 365 Sports. PettyClinicLowT.com can help you become the high-performance man that you want to be and perhaps as you've gotten older, used to be. And sometimes there's nothing you can do about this. Your testosterone level can change. It can get lower. It can drop. The numbers just change. Part of father time. 1 out of every 3 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone. You hear about one is the sex drive. It could be ED, could be your sleeping habits, could be your energy. Something's not right. And you can correct and handle some of that with what you do every day, with what you do when it comes to food, your diet, or just stress, eliminating that. And even exercise. But sometimes no matter what you do, your testosterone level can drop. Dr. Petty, PettyClinicLowT.com. Go to the website, tell them I sent you, contact them via the website, and tell them you want to get tested. You want to get your blood work. He will set up the appointment, his staff. They will take care of the appointment. They will then get your blood work results, and if your testosterone levels are lower than they should be, he can put you in a program to increase your testosterone levels and, again, become the man you want to be, used to be, need to be. PettyClinicLowT.com.
This month, Alan Samuelson Waco is having the Black Friday sales event. You can save big on the new 2022 Ram 1500 Crew Cab with total values up to $4,250 with 2.9% for 72 months. That's right, plus an extra $500 bonus cash to first responders and no payments until January 2023. Shop an award-winning dealership with award-winning product. Alan Samuelson Waco, the place to shop Ram trucks.
Come by, let's be friends.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Chuck Verno, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Chuck Verno, 720 North 64th Street in Waco, 254-732-1161. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your home for holiday favorites for parties or time with the family with various specials available while supplies last in store or ordering by phone, including 8 to 10 pound half spiral hams at $4.15 a pound, 12-pound pit hams at $4.35 a pound, 8 to 22 pound bone-in hams for $3.40 a pound, 14 to 16 pound whole raw turkeys at $2.85 a pound, and $4.80 a pound for 9 to 12 pound whole smoked turkeys, 6 to 8 pound mini pit hams for $5.99 a pound. Limit 4 of each item per customer. Call in advance to ensure availability or drop by Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco. Waco Custom Marketplace, your full-service butcher shop for customized orders or cuts of your favorite steaks or beef tenderloin or specially ordered prime rib roast. WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
In Texas, there's pea-size hail and baseball-size hail. Guess which one hit our house? We didn't even know where to begin, but we called our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent, and he was so reassuring. He knew exactly what to do to get our house back into shape and our lives back to normal. Now, we're even more thankful for the roof over our heads.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
So TCU is going to play either Kansas State and possibly Texas in the Big 12 championship game. K-State 6-2, Texas 5-3. If Texas wins Friday, and if Kansas State was to lose, you'd have a tie. And Texas beat Kansas State, remember, just 2 or 3 weeks ago. And Bijan Robinson, I know UT fans have been waiting for him to just explode. Could have had 350 yards if they kept him in the game, didn't need to. He is like watching somebody run the football on skates with a power blower somewhere or engine behind him. He is absolutely just amazing. That's why that's what TCU did by keeping him to 12 carries, 29 yards. Paul texted me during the game. It's amazing what happens when you give Bijan the ball, right?
Yeah.
Good things usually happen, although TCU had him wrapped up.
You know, sometimes you can be a really smart guy and have all these ornate plans, but the smartest thing to do is the simplest thing. And I think Steve Sarkisian and his coaching staff very wisely said, okay, we got to get back to basics here. And what's the best thing we can do? Oh, who's the best player in the team? That guy.
Yeah.
Give him the ball until he begs us not to.
243 yards, Craig, 4 touchdowns, averaged almost 10 yards a carry, and we've been waiting for him to kind of explode. He's had some good ones, but he exploded in that win against Kansas.
Yeah, overshadowed, Jalen Daniels and him being back, and, that was a big topic of, when KU might get their starting quarterback back, but probably overshadowed the concerns that they rightfully have on defense. And, Bijan able to pretty much do what he wanted at will. Good game plan by Sarkisian to just cut the BS and just go to your bell cow, and that's what they did. And obviously he's got good complementary pieces around him as well, but he was fantastic. That's why he's going to be his name called in the early part of the NFL draft here in just a few months. I don't think there's any doubt. I saw, and it's Twitter, so literally everybody has a voice. So you come across, who knows who's really talking behind something. It's do you think Bijan might come back for it? And it's no, no. And I know it's the NIL era, so they could probably, find a few $1 million. They already have, but could find a few million to give to be an enticement and get him back for another run. But no, he's bound for the NFL, and
a buttload of mustard.
Yeah, I mean that's a position where you don't stick around and play 4 years of college typically these days if you're a guy of his talent. So no, he's going to be closing out his career here pretty soon, but could do so on some really big performances if he's able to do a dent of what he was able to do Saturday here over the next, 2 ball games.
2 games over 200 yards, Kansas State, which was a huge win, and also against Kansas. It kept him alive for a Big 12 title game, 183 against UTSA. He has 200 and some yards more than last year, and he has been good. But he was held down that TCU game. And even Alabama, 21 carries, 57 yards in that game against the Tide. Now, Shane Beamer and South Carolina may have had the best win of anybody over the weekend. There were TCU could say they did, and others could say they did. But after the game, they're meeting on Sunday. After blowing out, they did. They blew out Tennessee in the second half in the fourth quarter. I love this. This is about a minute or so. So listen to what he did here to his team following a dramatic and exhilarating night, South Carolina.
In all seriousness, all right, we're taking a walk. All right, we're taking a 10-minute walk. We're going to be outside. All right, everybody hear me okay? In the back? That wasn't easy to get up here, correct? in all seriousness, I want you to understand what we do. And then also who we do it for. People pay money to come watch you guys play. People pay money to park, to then walk all the way down Bluff Road, to then climb up this ramp and these steps like we just did to watch you play. They're going to come out here. You know how our fans are. They're the best in the country. And whether it's the fan base or whether it's your family, friends, there's a lot of people that make sacrifices to come watch us play. Don't ever, ever, ever take that for granted as well. All right, we got a lot of good going on in this team. Let's keep it going.
All right, that's the day after the very impressive win against Tennessee. And at times, I think Shane Beamer's almost a little bit unhinged. He's done a nice job there. Rattler was fantastic. So was the offense. And they made lots of plays to beat Tennessee, scored 63 against the Vols. So there's a video. I thought that it's one of those for whatever reason. Maybe it's even the music in the background that gives me goosebumps a little bit as I watched it. I thought that was very, very cool in what he did with his team.
Yeah, I mean, it's a nice idea, and I think it's good perspective to have, and, you know, wouldn't hurt probably for Dave Aranda to take his team and go do that because of the way the home games have gone this year of, like, you know, I just think of, like, the payoff for the home fans of South Carolina to have him explain all that and for them to go out and then go grab a big win, you know, like that against Tennessee and make the whole whatever feel worthwhile. I wish Baylor fans could have experienced that on Saturday, you know, because they've tried, no matter how the product has been or how frustrating the product has been, you know, week to week. These last couple weeks, they've showed up and tried to, you know, be there and tried to be supportive, even if it's taken, you know, some pushes rather than nudges, and two wildly different outcomes, getting blown out and then getting your heart ripped out at the very end with seconds ticking off the clock. So I'm glad that, you know, South Carolina was able to get their payoff. I know at some point Baylor fans will as well, and I think for every team, it would be smart to remind your players and those involved of, like, yeah, there's a support system out there. It's not just, you know, nameless, faceless. You know, they're expected to be there. Like, there's a lot of effort that goes into that, a lot of time and money and road miles and things like that. So I like that message.
I thought it was fantastic, and that's why I wanted to share it with you. I hope you enjoyed it. Melvin Gordon, former Wisconsin star, fumbled again for Denver. He's gone. They waived him. He's a tremendous player at Wisconsin. Been a good player in the NFL, but he's no longer with the Denver Broncos. When we come back, Angelique Shingelis, she writes for the Detroit News on Michigan, Ohio State. Later on, Dan Hope, 11 Warriors. He covers Ohio State. We'll hear from him, too, on a game that is, man, you talk about implications coming up this weekend. This is 365 Sports. Waco Custom Marketplace has all sorts of specials for ham. What kind of ham you want. And then also what kind of turkey you want. But they also have this today. Whole smoked turkeys for $75. All natural, no antibiotics, no hormones, house hickory smoked, and you can call to reserve a smoked turkey for you to have whenever you want it. This week, Thanksgiving, of course, is on Thursday. So call 254-227-6595. Go online, WacoCustomMarketplace.com. And I know a lot of you watching and listening aren't even in the Waco area. But if you are, that is a great idea to get a smoked turkey so you don't have to go through all the other process. Now, sometimes you like that process of early morning, stuffing the turkey, basting the turkey, whatever you do to season it, get it ready, and then all those hours that go by waiting to get a taste of whatever it might be. Whole smoked turkeys for $75, house hickory smoked. Waco Custom Marketplace at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Colgan Ford. It's that time of year. It's football season. And BK Ford is a proud supporter of the best high school football teams in Texas, right here in Central Texas. BK Ford is proud to sell the #1 truck in Texas, the F-Series truck, led by our leading rusher, the F-150, 45 years in a row. Lock in your best price and rate today by custom ordering your new F-150 at BK Ford. Simple, easy, trusted. Experience better at Bird Colgin Ford.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Howdy, Chet Garner here, professional guide, searching for bears in the wild. But not just any bears, oh no, a particular kind. With hundreds of thousands roaming freely in the wild, yet still hard to spot unless you know the signs. There they are, Baylor bears. If you're a bear enthusiast or even a bear yourself, join me and let's find some bears in the wild.
Join the expedition at baylor.edu/alumni.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like First Free Checking, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Well, there's a mega game coming up. Ohio State, Michigan, both unbeaten. The winner, pretty much right now, both teams in a pretty good spot when it comes to the college football playoff, but you think maybe only one of the two get in. And we're joined by Angelique Shingala. She joined us before on Many Things Michigan from the Detroit News, covers Michigan. Angelique, this has all worked out the way everyone may have thought. Not sure if someone stubbed a toe or two, but how much fun will this week be with those two unbeaten?
Well, I mean, I think this is what everybody, Michigan and Ohio State fans I know, live for this final week of the regular season, coming down to these two teams. And I think it's really exciting that this game will be in Columbus, where the two teams have had some pretty exciting matchups and for everything. And this is what it is. I mean, you can use all the cliches, heavyweight fight, all those things. That's what this is. And it kind of feels like that's the way it should be in the Big Ten.
Both teams seem to me like they've had the exact same season as well, not just record-wise, but kind of how it's shaken out over the course of the season. They've had a couple games that were dicey, and then not only that, dicey, but dicey the week before this game. Ohio State had to fight off Maryland with all they had, and Michigan, it took them till the 9 seconds left to finally get the lead in that game.
Yeah, I mean, I really did think I thought coming into this season, Illinois might be tough, and I think Brett Bielema was a great hire there, and they matched up in a way that gives Michigan problems, and then obviously Blake Corum going down just before halftime, came out in the second half and ran one play and then sat the rest of the game. That was a difference maker for this offense. They had two guys on the bench, Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards. They're two backs, and I'm not trying to take anything away from Illinois because they played hard, but I think that this was a Michigan offense that wasn't quite clicking, didn't have the connection again in the pass game, wasn't quite there. But yeah, I mean, it was just by the hair of their chinny chin, and Jake Moody with 4 field goals and making Big Ten Special Team Player of the Week for winning that game.
Angelique, Blake Corum's numbers, as you are well aware, are just silly. I mean, for this team to have nearly 500 carries on the year, he's got half of those, nearly 1,500 yards, 18 touchdowns. What is the status of him at this point? I know they're going to probably play that close to the vest, but what is the status? And as you mentioned, Edwards being banged up, what is the feel around that running back room if, in fact, it's not 100% going into this game?
Well, I can't imagine he'll be 100%. I mean, he did. I took a little video of him that I just watched again when he came out just before the second half, and he was trying to run around a little bit, and he jumped up a little bit, kind of grabbing his left knee, and you could tell he was favoring it. And then he told them he didn't feel great about things, and they decided to sit him. Didn't feel like it was worth getting him more injured. Jim Harbaugh said after the game, structurally good. The knee was structurally good. Today, Jim Harbaugh didn't have an update. I saw Blake Corum Sunday in Ypsilanti. He, for the second year in a row, he has purchased turkeys to give to underserved communities in Ypsilanti. And, I think everybody was watching the videos looking for any sign. Is he limping? What's going on? I will tell you, it was icy. It was a little snowy. I know that you kind of walked gingerly in there, so I think it was really hard to tell how he looked. And he said he'll be back. He just wouldn't be specific as to when. So I think that this is going to be a late in the week kind of decision to see where he and Donovan Edwards, who has missed pretty much the last 2 games, where those two will be. And then, as you said, I mean, where is this run game? I think they're going to have to rely on their freshman, C.J. Stokes, and they feel pretty good about him, but he's not Blake Corum, and he's not Donovan Edwards, so it's going to be a real challenge to see how this run game goes.
Angelique, I'm fortunate and honored to have a Heisman vote. Could the winner of this game, depending on whether it's C.J. Stroud or Corum, that's the difference, possibly secure a Heisman trophy?
I really believe that's the case. I think that's something. Blake Corum has talked a little bit this season about, it'd be nice to be in the Heisman conversation. It'd be great to be in New York, but he wasn't focused on that. And I think C.J. Stroud's the same. But this is a game that has, historically, there have been some performances from Michigan players that have sealed the Heisman for them, Desmond Howard and Charles Woodson. And I did think coming into this, a couple weeks ago that Blake Corum has a big game. He's really, he's in the conversation, but I think he'd be really in the conversation. And the same goes for C.J. Stroud. I mean, the guy is he's put up impressive numbers. This is a high scoring Ohio State offense, and again, I think this is a game, a big stage like this. I presume that they'll both still be 2 and 3 in the college football playoff rankings, and that's the kind of performance, that's the kind of stage that gives players like these two a chance to win a Heisman Trophy.
For the last 2 years, for this game to have such high CFP expectations and results on it, and not just in the before the season, if everything works out, it's worked out the last 2 years perfectly this way. Does this send the rivalry into the stratosphere now because of that? What Jim Harbaugh was brought here to do, he's doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's I think he needs to win this game in Columbus. Michigan has not won there since 2000, since Drew Henson was the quarterback. And David Terrell was a receiver. I mean, and they didn't play there in 2020 because of a COVID outbreak. So, I mean, this has not been an easy place for Michigan. And, I think that Jim Harbaugh needs to win in Columbus, make it 2 in a row for people to start really thinking, okay, the rivalry's back. Because until last season, Ohio State had just dominated the last 2 decades, had won 8 straight going into the 2021 game. But if somehow Michigan wins this game on Saturday, I think you start talking about, okay, the rivalry is back, and now it is really just flip a coin each year who's going to win this game. And but it's so hard to win there, and if he wins with the injury status as we think it is right now, then that says something about Jim Harbaugh in this program.
How do you feel like J.J. McCarthy has grown throughout this season?
I think he gets a lot of heat, especially lately, because they haven't really connected on the deep ball. And I just think, well, there's another part of this equation, the receivers. And if you really watch the receivers, outside of Ron Bellamy, who's very consistent, they don't get a lot of separation. So I think that there is a timing issue. There's a rhythm issue, perhaps, for J.J. McCarthy. When you do have such a robust running game, I think sometimes that can throw a quarterback off a little bit. But I think for his first year, he's played really well. He's done what they want him to do. I think they're going to ask him to have to do a lot more on Saturday. And boy, what a tough task to be a first-year starter and going into Columbus to try to win that game. But the guy is ice cold. I mean, he's just too cool as a cucumber. I don't know how else to describe the guy, but he's unflappable. And I don't think the moment's going to be too big for him. I don't think he's going to be intimidated. But I think he is really going to be relied on, because I mean, even if Blake Corum were healthy, I think you got to believe Ohio State was going to go in there and really try to dare J.J. McCarthy to throw, and now I think that's undoubtedly the case.
All right, the most important question. You had told me that you'd be driving up to, in fact, Ann Arbor. What is the expected temperature at game time? The game in Columbus?
Yes, it's in Columbus.
So what is the expected weather? Is it going to be snow flurries and like 24? What is it supposed to be?
Wow, gosh, I got to tell you, last Saturday's game against Illinois in Ann Arbor was freezing, and the wind was really crazy. It's not going to be like that. I mean, I've been checking the forecast for 2 weeks and for Columbus, and it looks like it's going to be like high 40s and maybe a little rain. I don't think it's going to be I don't think there's going to be much precipitation, at least the forecast. And I've been checking like twice a day, and it looks like it's going to be okay. So, I don't know who that favors. I think it favors Ohio State. I mean, you saw what they did in those really uncomfortable conditions at Northwestern. It was tough for them to get C.J. Stroud going in the pass game. But I think it's got to favor Ohio State here.
Angelique, thank you very much for your time. Enjoy the week. I know you will. You do a great job covering Michigan. Appreciate your time with us whenever we get it.
Thanks so much. Happy Thanksgiving,
yes,
everybody.
You too. Angelique Shingalis, again, Detroit News on Michigan, Ohio State. It's like in the 50s, 44 to 53, possible rain, but nothing like snow flurries, which is what that game needs.
It was a really windy, bitterly cold. You could feel the bitter cold coming through their game last weekend, and to have to be the field goal guy in that situation just in general is pressure enough, but then you add in all the elements too as well, and that one in particular. And in Waco, Griffin Kell, it was cold. It was, I don't know how windy it was down in the field, but it was nothing compared to the elements in Michigan. And I give credit to the Wolverines for just like the Frogs, finding a way, being that team there that can find a way. And there's teams that, find the opposite. And, Michigan, Ohio State is always a good one, but especially these last couple of years with the Wolverines holding up more of their end of the bargain. I think this is going to be a great game coming up this weekend.
I can't wait just to sit back, relax, and enjoy that one among others. Baylor, Texas, 11 o'clock Friday in Austin. One college football note, we're going to come back with Sam Houston State sophomore Kavian Gaither, who played high school football here in Waco at Conley High School. Matt Fay of the Beaumont Enterprise reporting that Blaine Morgan is out after 3 years as the head coach at Lamar down in Beaumont. He was 5-23, 1-10 this year. This is 365 Sports. Ideal MRI can help you find out what is bothering you when it comes to a muscle, a ligament, or something that is just not right. They have state-of-the-art technology, the MRI machine. I've been in it multiple times. It is fantastic. The Texan specialist leading you up to that point, leading you up until you're right before you're in the machine, and during the time you're there, have been as smooth as anything I've ever experienced at any other place where I've had an MRI, and I've had a handful over the years. The appointment, it's not like you have to have a long waiting time of, oh my goodness, I can't get one for 2 or 3 weeks. You call them or you go online, idealmri.com, they're going to take care of you. There's not this big waiting room either. It's a separate business by itself in the Central Texas marketplace where the customer service is elite. I have had MRIs. I've gotten the results back by that evening. I've had doctors, Dr. Maxey, actually call me and tell me what he saw, whether it's the shoulder, my abdomen, wherever it is that they're looking, and it is absolutely easy. And the key thing is never more than $497. In fact, sometimes it can be less. It's special. It's idealmri.com.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots. at goarmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Waylon Jones cuts it inside and scores.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
We had the fun and honor of covering Kavian Gaither at Connolly High School in Waco. He then went to Sam Houston State. He played as a true freshman. He has had a really good sophomore year, although very unique, as Coach Casey Keeler told us last week, that there was no chance to play for anything postseason because of the transition period. Kavian Gaither joins us, Sam Houston State linebacker, with Paul Craig and David Smoak. KG, how you doing, young man?
Man, I'm doing great. Doing real good. How about yourself?
We're doing great. Are you home for the holidays, or you still have some more school to do?
Yes, I still have. I just finished my last class for the day, and I will be heading home tomorrow. So my mom is real happy about that.
I bet she is, and I'm sure you are too with all that food coming up this week. So you have played almost immediately as a freshman. Did you expect that? I know this year's been different, and you've played well, but did you expect to play as quickly as you did? Did the staff expect you to play as quickly as you did?
I just did what I had to do in order to just impress the coaches coming in. You know, it was very hard, especially considering that we came in so late. We came in August, like on the first day of fall camp. That was the first day that we came in. So it was basically we had to impress the coaches quickly. And so, because after a certain amount of time, they got to figure out who was traveling or not. And so whenever I saw that I was making the travel squad and I was going to be able to participate in special teams, I called my family and we were real happy about it. So to answer your question, I didn't expect it only because given my circumstances, but I knew that that wasn't going to be easy, and I just had to work for it, work hard for everything.
We had Coach Keeler on the show last week, and it was a great interview. Really fun talking to him. Knowing what I know about you and then knowing what I now know about him after talking to him, you guys are a good personality match for coach and player, aren't you?
Oh, yeah. Yes, sir. Coach Keeler, me and him, man, we real cool, man. I feel like I can go to him about anything. And KC Keeler, Coach Keeler, he's a real good dude, real good coach.
Kavian, you were a man of many talents, especially in high school. I mean, doing a little bit of everything, offense, defense, whatever you had to do, multi-sport. What's it been like to kind of narrow down your focus and really lock in on some specifics for the first time in your career?
I feel like it's been a blessing, honestly. I feel like all that, just participating in everything I can and just doing what I can in order to compete in everything I do. That's my thing. I just try. I'm not scared of no competition, and I feel like it's definitely helped me for my future. It just helps me being able to focus more, and it's becoming a lot more easier being able to focus on one thing rather than focusing on like multiple different sports or different positions. It's become easier for me, and it's given me time in order to learn a lot more.
How do you feel? Oh, sorry. How do you feel like you've settled into being a defensive guy? It obviously suits you, but do you feel like it suits you?
Yes, I feel like all my life, man. I feel like I've leaned towards the defense, man. Even though my pops is an offensive dude, he played running back in his time, but for some reason, as I was growing up and growing older, I just leaned towards the defense. It was just something about that edge and just working hard for everything. It was just something about that defense just screamed out to me.
Kavian, you were named the WAC Defensive Player of the Week back in late October against Utah Tech. Had 11 tackles, 4 TFLs behind the line of scrimmage, 4 tackles, and a couple of sacks. That's pretty impressive. What was that night like? And just the I guess you could say the attention from what you did.
Yes, sir. Yeah, that night, man, it was a pretty good night. The coach had a real good game plan for us going into that week. Our offense, it was a defensive game. You know, just defense going back and forth, battling it out, and we were just trying to get an offense more opportunities to score and things of that nature. So it came down to the wire. It came down to the defense coming out on top, and everybody made plays, including myself. And man, it was just a great blessing within itself, just being able to not only record those stats, but also to get the dub at the end and celebrate with my teammates.
KG, Smokey mentioned earlier about you coming home this week and all the food. Now, I know your mom, and I know what you guys do. You're cooking too, right? Because that's one of your hobbies and your passion. So what will be your assignment this week when it comes to Thanksgiving dinner?
I think my assignment would be at that table. Making sure the forks are good, making sure the napkins are on the table, the tablecloth. But I'm excited though. Me and my mom, we haven't talked about that yet. So it's gonna be interesting to see what she'll have me up to.
All right, sure. You're gonna have turkey, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What are your, let's say, favorite side items, side parts of what you're going to sit down at that table when you make sure the right forks and everything are in order?
Well, okay, for sure. You gotta have the green beans, the vegetables. Gotta have, because if you ain't got no vegetables on your plate, then you're gonna be walking out a little heavy, a little hefty. So definitely some green beans, mac and cheese for sure, easily mac and cheese, and then probably like a little roll, like a little dinner roll, Hawaiian, something like that. And yeah, I think that's my plate right there. And then some ham, of course. But I mean, would you consider that a side?
Yeah. It's part of. I'd say the ham and turkey. Some people like one or the other. Some like both.
Yeah, I like both. I gotta have both on that plate.
You're gonna end up being a defensive tackle. I can already tell. So you played a year in which you guys could not be in the postseason. It was kind of weird. I know you lost the last couple of games, so it didn't end. Had a lot of other players who were redshirting. Coach Keeler discussed that. How weird or maybe tough or difficult was this year with all that kind of spinning around?
Yeah, it was a little. It's just a different outlook. Like looking into the season, you know, we're not just not being able to compete for the playoffs. You know, something we always look forward to doing. You know, it's just like a tradition that it's just a goal of ours. And so we understand our transition. We understood that transition was going to limit us to the playoffs. So I feel like this year was used as like getting dudes healthy, getting dudes, and then of course redshirting. So it was a little different, but I feel like it's for the better. A lot of young dudes played this year, had opportunities to showcase their talents, and then getting dudes healthy for our next year for FBS football, which is very exciting. Can't wait for that.
So the guys who didn't play this year, who were redshirted, rested, whatever, they're coming in. The competition, whether it's where you play or elsewhere, ought to be just incredibly fierce and stiff next year, right?
Yeah, yes, sir, for sure. And then including the transfer portal as well, man. It's competition everywhere. So just knowing what we put into it and everything, just working hard for everything. I love competition. I don't look for the easy way out at all. So the more competition we have, the more competitors we're gonna have in the building, and it's just gonna make us a better football team. And I feel like at the end of it, it's gonna be some great dudes on both sides of the ball, ready to play.
10 tackles, a caused fumble, a batted down pass in the loss to Southern Utah to close it out. All right, let's go back to the alma mater. Conley, the Cadets, made a really nice run, won the district title, and they even had Trey Wisner leave, as you know, during the offseason, and still had a really good year with Jelani and Sibley, Black, Wiggins, etc. Your thoughts about what you saw from the Cadets from afar?
Oh yeah, so I always tune in to to the cadets. It's been real good seeing them, especially the young players I had mentored before I left, such as Jelani, Jamari, all of them. It's real good to see them do their thing, especially, seeing them whenever I was in school. They was running around being bad and everything, but it's good. It's really good to see them grow up and mature as men, and then they're taking their next step into their next phase of life. So it's very exciting to see that, and of course I'm gonna try to lead them and try to help them in order to succeed in that next phase. That's the part.
When you were younger, did you have a former player say that you were running around doing a lot of things bad? Or I don't think that happened with Kavian Gaither, though, did it?
No. If that would have happened, my parents would have been an earful from my parents. So you know how that goes.
All right. Hey, glad you wrapped up for academically with what you're doing this semester. It's been a great story. We will always remember, no matter what all the other games we did and watched from you, that game at China Spring, when that game was a classic. You remember? Is that one you'll always remember?
Oh, yes. I'll remember that, man. That game was crazy, man. Yeah, I will definitely not forget about that one.
Kavian, enjoy the time, the break, your parents, your family. Thanks for your time. We appreciate you and really proud of what you've done, and not a surprise.
Of course. Thank y'all. Thank y'all for this opportunity.
Yes, sir.
And I hope y'all have a good Thanksgiving.
You too, buddy. Kavian Gaither played quarterback, safety at Conley High School when we did the games during the COVID year. Really a tremendous personality and having a nice start his first couple of years at Sam Houston State. When we come back, we're going to hear from Ricky Thompson, former Baylor wide receiver, Sideline Radio, his thoughts about the last few seconds, his thoughts about TCU unbeaten, and his thoughts about Baylor getting off the canvas again in a different way this week as Texas comes up Friday, and this is 365 Sports. This month, Allen Samuels has the Black Friday sales event going on right now, Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco, and you can save on the new 2022 Ram 1500 Crew Cab. How much can you save? Total values of $4,250. $4,250 with 2.9% financing for 72 months. 2.9% financing for 72 months. And again, you can get an extra $500 if you're involved in anything when it comes to first responders. No payments until January, 72 months of 24, No payments for 72 months. It's Allen Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, the 2022 Ram 1500 Crew Cab. Total values, $4,250, 2.9 for 72 months. Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
Genco's Black Friday Cyber Monday Auto Loan Special is here. Apply for your auto loan online and receive a 0.15% loan discount. Plus, every auto loan gets 90 days with no payments. Then have a chance to win 90 more days with no payments. Black Friday Cyber Monday only at Genco. This special runs till December 2nd. Every online application gets an additional discount plus 90 days no payments. Only at Genco. Subject to credit approval, membership eligibility, and loan policies. For more information, go to gencofcu.org, member NCUA.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. The team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injuries, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Hi, this is Paul Catalina. I recently got engaged to the love of my life, but the most important thing that I had to do before I popped the question was get that perfect ring. And I know nothing about rings. So I went to the wedding ring store, Boozer's Jewelers on Valley Mills Drive. I knew I needed a custom design, and that's exactly what they do. 9 out of 10 of their engagement rings are designed in-house. The entire process took less than a month, and they were great every step of the way. Great options on financing, excellent selection, and talented designers. My fiance and I get nonstop compliments on the ring. I only deserve credit for doing the smartest thing I could, walking into Boozers and letting them work their magic. Your one-of-a-kind fiance deserves a one-of-a-kind ring, and that's what you get at Boozers. Boozers Jewelers, the wedding ring store on Valley Mills Drive.
Did you know Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco is open to the public? Next time you're in town for a Baylor athletic event or you're in town for tourism, take advantage of their day passes for $10 a piece or the weekend for $30. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers 40 group exercise classes, including indoor cycling and yoga, boot camp, and bar. New free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, new elliptical machines, and a spacious weight room floor. Personal training with Christy London, Randall Corley, and Alec Botch, where you will be encouraged to grow. Sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed, kids club, 16 tennis courts and 8 pickleball courts, and youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons available. Waco's premier experience where you can help your mind, body, and soul. Visit wacotennis.com or visit them next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Are you a Sikkim 365 super fan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at Sikkim365.com.
We will try to get Ricky Thompson here with us, former Baylor wide receiver, also does Baylor radio and sidelines for the Bears, and he was there right there on the field at McLean Stadium in that dramatic ending and a huge win for TCU.
Yeah, I mean, as big a win as it gets. Every win from here on out will be their biggest win before their next loss. And, you know, if they go beat Iowa State like they should this weekend, then, yeah, I mean, they're going to be sitting right there in a Big 12 championship game with not only a Big 12 championship on the line, but a legit playoff spot. I mean, there's not going to be any controversy, I don't believe, surrounding, especially after this weekend, kind of shaking things up even further. I mean, TCU wins the next 2 games. They're in the college football playoff, and they're Big 12 champs. I mean, it's just simple as that. So lot to play for them. And, you know, for the Bears, as we'll talk to Ricky about, I'm, you know, sure that it's going to be a tough week to rebound. Jag just got back from the Aranda press conference, said everything seemed normal. And, you know, I wouldn't expect any different. Like, I don't think anybody thought Aranda would come to the podium today and be like fire and brimstone or suddenly a different personality than he's been. But, yeah, it's going to be, I'm sure, a challenge with, you know, just a weird week in general, a Friday game against, you know, a really good Texas team coming off a loss like that. It's going to be fascinating to see just what the emotional levels are for these Bears on Friday. 8
of 10 teams in the Big 12 after Tech and Oklahoma both won, who play each other this week, have clinched at least a bowl appearance. 8 of the 10, West Virginia, Iowa State, both 4-7. This weekend, Baylor, Friday, 11 o'clock in Austin at a UT. Saturday, 11 o'clock, West Virginia plays at Oklahoma State. 3 o'clock game, Iowa State plays in Fort Worth against the Frogs, the unbeaten Frogs. 6:30, Oklahoma at Tech, which almost became an elimination game, had either one of them or both of them not won this past weekend. And then Kansas at night will play Kansas State in a game Kansas State has to win if Baylor doesn't beat Texas to clinch a rematch in what was a game and when they led 28-10 against the Frogs down in Fort Worth. So that's the setup today for the Big 12. Yeah, Gary, do you have the picks we had over the weekend? I'm not sure what's going on with Ricky. We had a problem last time as well. I think we were running late. Today we're on time. The picks from last week. Here, we don't do this. We do the picks on Friday, and it was a good week for all of us. We sometimes don't summarize them. If you had a big red, the only one Paul would have would be the game with Oklahoma State. The only one I would have was the Utah game, which turned out to be a great finish, 20-17. And Craig, you had Iowa State and Utah. So right now, Craig is still a game up on Paul and a game up on me. This is down to the wire the way this has turned out.
Yeah, I was white-knuckling that Oregon game. Really, like, that was crazy. To think that
garbage camerizing. Come on, man.
To think that game, when the fourth quarter started, was going to be decided on a field goal 3.5 minutes after that, and then nothing else, kind of blew my mind. It also made me even more of a Bo Nix fan in that he was hobbling around and doing all he could. That was some gamer stuff right there, Bo Nix. So I was impressed. Both those Pac-12 games were fun to watch.
Yeah, 2 games, by the way, not 1 game, 2 games. I think you said 1 game behind. It's 2 games up.
No, you lost twice. You had 2 losses.
Oh, you're talking about on the week. I'm talking about overall.
No, overall week.
No, you're 2 games behind me. It's 40-37 to 42-35. That's 2 games.
That's the old.
That's
not
last week's
updated. Okay.
So,
yeah.
I thought it was updated. All right, sorry. Oh, okay, I understand now. Yeah, I mean, Iowa State, that was what I was afraid of. I mean, they scored 10 points. Scored 10 points against Tech, and I saw Tech fans like, great defense, and it was good defense. Don't get me wrong, it was good defense. It was also Iowa State's offense. So just everybody plays good defense against Iowa State's offense for the most part. I don't know what the thought is in Ames. I mean, I know they're not running Matt Campbell out of town or whatever, but like, what was the expectation this year, and what is the actual feeling on what they've actually accomplished? Because I mean, if you had them having a down year, that's one thing, but like, I mean, they're basically like the Iowa State of when the Big 12 started right now. I mean, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, they are clearly the last place team here. Wrestling with West Virginia to be worst. Just amazing how many close games they've had and how they just can't get anything going offensively. So that was frustrating. And then, Utah, I mean, they had their opportunities. They had so many opportunities. And Cam Rising, just not a very good game at all from him. Give credit to Oregon. And give credit to Bo Nix. But, like, I mean, he played well. He was gutsy and all that. He's not why, like, they won the game, though. Yeah. That was – Utah should have won that game with the opportunities that they had, but kudos to Oregon. I mean, they got it done. So, yeah, those were 2 losses for me that were very frustrating because they were just so close to being the opposite. But
that's what happened. That's kind of – these are hard, and we don't even do the spread. If we do the spread, it would be like 25-40 or whatever it is.
Well,
now,
if we had done the spread with TCU, we would have lost.
Yeah.
So.
All right, now let's look at the Big 12. Ricky Thompson, again, I was really hoping to get him. I don't know what's happening with that. But Big 12. There's no doubt the best feel-good story, and it's unanimous. The best feel-good story in the Big 12 is TCU. What is the team, if you look at expectations, Baylor's got to be in that discussion because they were picked to win the conference, and they're not going to be. That ended when Kansas State took their soul away a couple of weekends ago. Who else would be in that discussion if you look at what the season was supposed to be is a disappointment?
Oklahoma State.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
the 2 teams that played for the Big 12 title last year.
Yeah, I think Oklahoma State returning their quarterback. Now, look, they lost some skill position talent that's clear that took them a while to kind of find themselves from that. But, there's a school of thought that says that things would not have gotten bad for them if their injury problems were not this prodigious. So, yeah, I think that's a disappointment. I don't think they expected to, especially in the last month of the season, get rolled over by Kansas State in such a way that was so terrible, and then fall behind so badly in Bedlam you just could not get back in the game no matter how hard you tried.
And then look at the way when they were undefeated, Paul, when they played at TCU in one of those games where TCU found a way.
Yeah.
Because they do. They're like a snake. You got to cut their head off. 43-40, and then, of course, they came back against Texas, and you're like, they just blew the game again. Not blew it. TCU won the game. They're sitting there really pretty at 6-1, and then all hell broke loose after that Texas game with injuries piling up. Kansas State blown out by Kansas, won the game against Iowa State. beaten up pretty. They did show something at the end, although it was down 28-0. There was a chance they almost got back in that game. I don't know what happens with West Virginia. They're favored. They're at home. But, yeah, it's been a disappointing year for the two teams that played last year.
I mean, I think it's different kind of disappointments, though, because I think Oklahoma State's is squarely on the shoulders of injuries and Spencer Sanders in particular, whereas Baylor's are like a combination of all sorts of things. It's not like their quarterback got hurt and then they dropped 2-3 games. They've had the same team, like basically the entire year. Now, there's been pockets of this guy's hurt, that guy at running back or whatever.
Which is football.
And so, you know, I don't see that for them as their excuse of like, oh, well, it was if they had Richard Reese healthy, they would have been. No, I don't think that that's the case for them. If Spencer Sanders had been healthy, Oklahoma State doesn't go on as much of a skid, but they had a number of injuries. So, I mean, at least their disappointment has a reason behind it that's out of their control. But yeah, I mean, still in the bigger picture, a disappointing season. I just think that there's a little bit of but this happened, and so you can kind of understand where it's coming from. Baylor, not so much. Iowa State, I mean, they've won one game since starting off 3-0. They beat Iowa. Like, that really mattered in the long run. Hey, congratulations, you finally beat Iowa. You're not even making a bowl game the year that you do that. So they've gone from, super hot head coaching candidate and Big 12 potential, like on the rise team to, I mean, they beat West Virginia, so they won't be the worst team in the conference, but, at least as far as that head-to-head goes. But, yeah, I mean, they've won one game since, what would that be, since September 17th. It's almost December, so that's clearly a disappointment. Oklahoma, I mean, I don't care what rebuild you thought you were walking into. There were plenty of people that didn't think there was any rebuild at all, that they were just going to reload and show everybody that Lincoln Riley was overrated and he was nothing and, they don't need Caleb Williams and all this jazz. And, they're 2 games under 500 in Big 12 play, and I don't think that's, anything any Sooner fan thought that they would ever have to really wrap their heads around. So I think that even given the changeover, certainly it's been a disappointing season for Oklahoma. And then beyond that, I think you've got pretty much everybody feeling okay about where they are, feeling good about the direction that they're going. But and then West Virginia, obviously, I mean, yeah, disappointing because you knew coming in that you were going to have to do certain things to probably save Neil Brown's job. Now, as we know, he could very well still, due to the buyout, hang around a little while longer, but Shane Lyons is already gone. And, clearly there's this feeling of there needs to be some change here pretty soon for that fan base before they just absolutely explode and, riot over the head coaching position. So, yeah, it's been disappointing for them as well. Because if y'all remember, there's a lot of West Virginia fans that were talking big noise walking into this season once they got JT Daniels. I don't know if y'all remember that, but there were some West Virginia fans in the chat who were talking big game.
Well, I don't know how big. They were excited.
I'm not talking playoffs.
Yeah,
I'm talking. They were talking trash, though, about like where they sat in the Big 12. And I'm not, trash talking them. Like, that's just what was going on. And, so yeah, there was clearly some level of anticipation by at least some in that fan base. So yeah, to be 2-6 in Big 12 play, to be 4-7. JT Daniels not even your quarterback by the end of the year. I think that's got to be a disappointment as well. So evens out to about close to half the league. I'd say those are kind of the disappointing storylines, though.
I'm disappointed I don't have time to jump into the chat room more often, but we see you. We appreciate you. A lot of you back and forth on rivalries and conferences and who's this or who's that, and so much more, and we appreciate it. And I'm trying to do a better job of maybe sometimes, and if you're in the chat room, explain. I'm trying to try not to jump into these things as much as I used to.
Yeah, that's a good thing. It's a positive step forward for you. I do see.
I miss those guys.
I do see people saying Oklahoma. Oklahoma has expectations because they're Oklahoma, but I do think that if you really, expectation versus reality and what reality should have dictated. Now, I don't think that Oklahoma should have thought they would have a season where the second to last week they've got to win a game to be bowl eligible or be in a in a precarious position to maybe not go into a postseason game at all. But I do think that they should have tempered their expectations of just rolling back into the championship game because change is hard. And it worked out for Lincoln Riley on the other side at USC for one major reason is that he didn't have to change a thing about words he told his quarterback. I think that's the biggest difference. And that, look, they brought better players with them for sure.
A generational quarterback, mind you, not just anybody.
Yeah, a generational quarterback that he can just say, you remember that play we ran last year? Same thing. I'm not changing it. There's nothing he had to change. And so that was able to roll on. Even though Dylan Gabriel knew Jeff Lebby a little bit, that had been a couple years since they'd spent any time together. There's adjustment. And then not only that, the talent that they lost versus the talent they brought in. USC brought in a bunch of better players. Oklahoma brought in players that were not as talented. And that drop-off was not anticipated or even addressed by the majority of their fans. And you can see it. They did not have the playmakers they've had in the past, not just at quarterback, when Dylan Gabriel's a good quarterback, but he's not Caleb Williams. And those guys on the outside are not the guys that they lost either.
They've got Eric Gray, and that's pretty much it. Mm-hmm. I mean, as far as anything consistent goes, and I guess you want to sprinkle some Drake Stoops in there.
Well, Marvin Mims is a talent, but it's been.
Let's be real about him. He's a talent, and I get that, but he is not by any stretch of the imagination some week-to-week consistently solid wide receiver. He's not. He's a very good player. But I'm talking about your go-to guys every week. He might be somebody you
If they had their normal 2, 3, 4 receivers, then Marvin Mims is really, really good.
Sure, yeah. I mean, you surround anybody with 2 or 3 other really good players to take some of the heat off you. But as far as, him going and being an alpha dog without a lot of help around him or without a super-duper talented quarterback, no, I think that we've kind of seen over the last couple of years that that's not who he is. And that's my point is just that. But yeah, I mean, definitely a disappointment for them. Even if you thought, like you said, Paul, that there's going to be somewhat of a step back, not maybe going 6-6 or 7-5. That's a pretty steep step back. That's a good 3 losses more than you're normal to in any given year, maybe 4 in most years for Oklahoma. So it's been disappointing. I think just the question is how long does it take for a turnaround? And how long will it take them to kind of sink their teeth and claws into this thing, revamp the roster, and get it to where they want it to be? And can they do it, in enough time to go out in the Big 12 on a high note that they're more accustomed to, and enter the SEC on a high note? I don't know. That's what we'll learn here over the next couple seasons. But they certainly belong in the disappointing category.
Before we get back to the Michigan-Ohio State game, earlier we discussed the Michigan perspective with Angelique Shingalis. We're going to have Dan Hope on in a minute. But Big 12 media predictions. Baylor 1. Oklahoma was 2, and I think that was on name and logo. Oklahoma State 3. Texas 4. They're going to head above that. Kansas State 5, Iowa State 6, TCU 7. So the second consecutive year there's a chance a team last year picked 7th or 8th Baylor, and this year TCU picked 7th, Kansas State 5th, going to win the Big 12 title, and Texas still has that small percentage, but they do have a chance to play in that game depending on what happens with Kansas State, KU, and what they do with Baylor. So there we are with the media predictions. And I asked Wet Blanket, who's a big Oklahoma State fan, where did you have Oklahoma State? Number 1, of course. So a lot of good stuff going on. Thank you for all the time in the chat room and also the text line, which has been rattling and rolling again today. From Paul Bloss, biggest disappointment has to be Baylor due to the record, how we couldn't learn to how to win games. Saturday was same story of the other games we lost outside of Oklahoma, other than the games against Oklahoma State, other than how we lost and got blown out by Kansas State. I'll tell you this. Man, you wonder about Chris Kleiman. It's not that he's going to doubt himself, but had they gone to Andrew Howard in that game with Will Howard in that game with TCU, and they might have a chance to play that game again, that could be a fantastic game coming up in a couple of weeks if, in fact, Kansas State takes care of their own business. All right, when we come back, we're going to hear from Dan Hope, the 11 Warriors. He covers Ohio State. 2 unbeatens playing in Columbus on Saturday, and this is 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, they are the people that you can count on, the people that I've counted on plenty of times over the last year or so to get my vehicle fixed up when it's needed it. And thanks to some angry drivers out on the roadway, at least in one instance, I had to get a dent taken out of the side of my car. And thanks to some debris in the road. On another instance, a few months later, had to get a ding taken out of the other side of the car and a broken side mirror. It was a heck of a 2021, and I know we're well into 2022, almost into 2023 now at this point, but that was not that long ago in my mind, and certainly the stress feels like it was recent, and I can vouch for the good folks at Richard Carr that they were able to help alleviate a lot of that for me and help make, just the entire process of getting my vehicle fixed or getting into the shop and the wait times and all of that. They made it very simple for me, so you can only imagine, having not bought my car there, how they treat the people who do buy their cars there. Either way, you're in good hands with great customer service, but if you are in the market for a vehicle, know that if you do buy a vehicle from Richard Carr, they will have your back throughout the entire process and also after the signing process is wrapped up as well. Right now on the lot, the wait's over. They've got trucks and SUVs all over. 2022 GMC Terrains, 2022 GMC Acadias, 2022 GMC Sierras have all arrived, are waiting for you to test drive today. Cadillac XT4 and XT5 SUVs also available for a test drive, but inventory is going fast now that there are some new vehicles on the lot. When it comes to the Sierra, for example, and every ride's got its different bells and whistles, but among the offerings with the Sierra, you got best-in-class towing, you've got a multi-pro tailgate, you've got a strong steel bed, advanced collision avoidance, luxurious interior, massive touchscreens, 14 camera views, premium comfort. Does that sound like the car you're driving right now? Sound like something you want to be driving in right now? Well, go check out the Sierras today over at Richard Carr. New trucks on the lot. Dozens of quality pre-owns, though, as well. Cars and trucks pre-owned in stock. All of them have gone through a 172-point inspection, and there are multiple lending options, as Richard Carr loves to say yes to loans when others say no. So, for 23 years in Central Texas, Richard Carr has built a reputation as the people you can count on. Go see for yourself. Run by proud Wacoans, proud Baylor Bears. Log on to richardcarr.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
I'm going to tell you a tale of two companies founded 25 years ago. The first, Pickup Outfitters, started as a little shop on Lake Erie Drive by a local company selling the truck bumpers they were making in Waco. Then, 6 years ago, new ownership took up the cause of battling vehicle nudity, vowing to fight until there were no more naked trucks in Central Texas. And so far, they estimate they've outfitted more than 40,000 trucks at Pickup Outfitters. Now, the second company's story is not as impressive. They too started 25 years ago, but didn't have the vision of Pickup Outfitters, and to date, they have not outfitted one single naked truck in 25 years. So we'll celebrate the 25th anniversary of Pickup Outfitters with money-saving specials and valuable prizes. The second company will support them too by giving away 25 one-month subscriptions to their online service called Netflix. Save and win the Pickup Outfitters 25th anniversary celebration through Thanksgiving. Details online at createacommotion.com.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Nitsche Group Insurance Agency. With the Nitsche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Nitsche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Nitsche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, locally owned pizza place that's out of this world. Everything from the dough, the sauce, the sausage topping is made fresh in-house. Not to mention the amazing pizza pillows, the chicken wings are to die for. Try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries or tots, plus great specials on food and drink every single day. Shorty's is also the perfect spot to watch the game with your friends. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Tell them Paul sent you by.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year. Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Check out the 365 Sports family of channels on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
It is the game. It is an incredible rivalry at my age growing up. I mean, every year with Woody Hayes and Bo Schembechler. I know that's a long time ago, but I remember those games and what it was like. And there weren't 50 games on TV, and that was the one you did watch among a couple of others. Dan Hope, 11 Warriors, joins us on 365 Sports. Dan, thank you very much. Great setup. Everything's on the line. Your thoughts about as Ohio State enters this game and they had to be tested, it's good. Your thoughts about this is becoming what we used to see back in the day?
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, but the stakes of this game just feel so much higher than they have in such a long time because, you know, we've seen other games in recent years where both teams were highly ranked and had great records. But with Michigan winning the game last year and ending that long winning streak that Ohio State had, you know, now this one really feels like it can go either way. I think everybody's anticipating that this is going to be a great battle on Saturday, and there's so much on the line. 2 versus 3, 2 11-0 records. I think this is from a grander standpoint of college football. When you think about a rivalry, this is everything you want the rivalry to be, and so it's going to be quite a spectacle on Saturday.
Dan, Michigan got a scare, almost losing to Illinois, and Ohio State got a scare this week against Maryland. That it took until the very end of the game to make that look like there was distance, but there really wasn't. Do you think both these teams were looking ahead a little bit? I mean, they're both playing good teams, but this is just such a huge one, like you just said.
Yeah, I think that was probably a factor. I mean, if you just look around the landscape of college football this past weekend, it seems like all the top teams had those kind of games. And so I think, if a lot of rivalry games coming up this weekend, that was a pretty common theme across college football this week, but certainly for those two teams, like you said, I mean, this game is so big. I mean, Ohio State openly talks about how it prepares for this game every year and every week of the year. And Michigan has, kind of taken a similar approach here in the last couple of years. And so I think that did have something to do with it. The whole time going into that game against Maryland, I kept thinking back to 2018 where Ohio State needed overtime to beat Maryland. And it was the same situation going on the road, playing Maryland 1 week before playing Michigan the next week. And so I think certainly that probably was some of it for both teams involved.
Dan, what do you think has been kind of the storyline of this team now as we enter the final week of the regular season?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's certainly a team that is improved from last season in terms of being a more balanced, more complete team. The defense has certainly improved upon what we saw from Ohio State last year, and that's the reason why Ohio State is 11-0, and Ohio State is in this position to have a chance to make a run in the college football playoff. But I think there's still the questions there of, Ohio State, have they really been tested yet? They played Penn State, they played Notre Dame, they played some top teams, but, this is the real test. I think, you think this team is really good, but I think on Saturday we're going to find out, is this team really good? I think that's probably true for both teams going into this game, but I think, we know it's an explosive offense that is proven capable of putting up a lot of points. It's clear the defense is better than it was last year, but I think on both sides of the ball, this game, it all comes down to this and really determining whether Ohio State is an elite team, a national championship caliber team, or whether Ohio State is simply taking advantage of playing a lot of teams that it has superior talent over.
When it comes to that defense, I remember all the talk and the discussion and the uncertainty about, the hire of Jim Knowles and what exactly that would look like and how that would pan out. How has it worked out? And granted, given the caveat of we haven't seen them against the best of the best just yet, but how has that gone in year one with Jim Knowles?
Yeah, it's certainly been a success. Jim Knowles was just named today as a semifinalist for the Broyles Award as one of college football's top assistant coaches. And if you just look at the results, there's a clear difference in what Ohio State is doing defensively over what it was doing last year. It hasn't been perfect. I think you could see this past weekend that there's still some vulnerabilities in the defense. I think, particularly for me, when I look at the pass defense and you just look at the teams that Ohio State's played, they just haven't really faced many top-level passing offenses. And so I think that's still a question, not even necessarily for this week, because Michigan is not a great passing team either, but just in general, if you think, of a broader perspective of what could lie ahead for Ohio State, that I think, the pass defense to me is still a question mark. But overall, this defense has clearly improved from last year. And I think the big difference you just see is the players have more confidence. When you talk to them, when you watch them play, they're way more confident in what they're doing defensively. They know there's a plan. They feel like they're being put in positions to succeed. Whereas I think a lot of times last year, players were confused. They didn't know exactly what they were supposed to be doing because the scheme didn't set them up for success. And so I think that's been really the big difference, is that these guys have really bought into what they're being coached to do. And I think for the most part, it's worked very well.
Smith and Jigba last year, 95 catches, 1,600 yards, and, of course, the 9 touchdowns, and only 5 because of the injury. And this is not a
bowl game.
Yeah, and the bowl game where he had 25 or whatever it would seem like. But this is not a trick question. It's C.J. Stroud has still put up big numbers, despite the fact the receiving core has been completely different than last year. Marvin Harrison Jr.'s taken up all the slack. Who's more valuable? And I know he's the quarterback. This year, when it came to, let's say, getting Heisman votes, Stroud or Harrison?
Man, that's a really good question because, Marvin Harrison has been phenomenal. I think, you could absolutely make a very strong case that he's been the best receiver in the country. I think you can absolutely make a strong case that Marvin Harrison Jr. has been Ohio State's best player, most outstanding player. I just think the things you see him do on a week-to-week basis are unbelievable. And certainly, like you mentioned, the fact that they didn't have Jackson Smith and Jigba, basically all year, that has allowed Marvin to really step into that number one receiver role, and he's thrived in it. But in the question of most valuable, I still got to go with C.J. Stroud because we know, how valuable a quarterback is to an offense and how big of a difference it makes having an elite quarterback versus not having an elite quarterback. And we really don't know what it would look like if something happened to C.J. Stroud because the guys behind him really haven't played much. And so, that's a massive question mark. But I still think you got to go in terms of most valuable. I got to go with C.J. Stroud because he's the leader. He's the engine that makes that offense go. And he's the biggest reason why this team is in the position to be 11-0 this week.
Do you think he's had his Heisman moment yet, or will that come if they beat Michigan this week?
I think it would come this week. I think to me, I think whether he wins the Heisman is probably going to be determined on Saturday and how he plays in that game. I think if he can have that big game against Michigan, lead Ohio State to a victory with a great performance. We saw it the last time Ohio State and Michigan were both 11-0 entering this game. It was in 2006, and Troy Smith had a great performance in that game, and that propelled him to win the Heisman Trophy. And so I think C.J. Stroud could certainly follow in his lead if he has that kind of performance this weekend. But I do think he needs that kind of performance this weekend to really solidify his case as a Heisman winner, because I think he's had a great year, but I think if you compare what he's done this year maybe to some other Heisman winners in recent years, I don't think he's had that Heisman moment yet. I don't think he's had that one defining performance that you can really point to and say, that guy's a Heisman Trophy winner. And so I think it really is probably going to come down to this weekend in terms of whether he wins that trophy in a couple weeks.
Taking into account Michigan's injury issues for the time being at running back, what concerns you most about the Wolverines heading into this weekend?
Yeah, I think certainly that rushing offense is still right up there, because we've seen how good Blake Corum can be when he's healthy, and we saw what happened last year where Michigan ran the ball all over Ohio State, and so I think that's still the biggest question mark in my mind is just is Michigan going to be able to have that kind of success on the ground again as they have all year. But I think you can also flip it to the other side of the ball too with Ohio State and their own running game, because we've seen that Ohio State has had a lot, some inconsistency with running the ball, and they've had a lot of injuries there as well. Maya Williams has been in and out of the lineup. Travion Henderson's been in and out of the lineup. Dallin Hayden had a really good game this past weekend, filling in for Travion Henderson after he went out of the game, but he's still a true freshman, and so I think that running game for Ohio State remains a question mark, and I believe Michigan has the number one ranked rushing defense in the country, and so we know Ohio State should be able to make a share of plays passing the ball, but in a game like this, they're going to have to be able to lean on that running game. They're going to have to be able to get those tough yards on the ground, and I think there's still a question mark going up against an opponent like this, whether that's something Ohio State will be able to do consistently.
Thank you very much, Dan. Great stuff. We appreciate it. Glad we could get you on. For us and our audience, thanks for your time and have fun. I know you will. This will be an incredible week leading up to that game on Saturday.
Absolutely, guys. Thanks for having me. Have a great week.
You too. Go to 11 Warriors. He covers Ohio State. Dan, again, Hope with us on 365 Sports. Ohio State has Ruggles, who's their kicker, and Michigan is it Moody? Mm-hmm. Who's their kicker. In fact, he was the one that was the main weapon in their win this past weekend. But, yeah, you think about it with Jackson and Jigba Smith and Jigba. He has got 5 catches. He had 95 last year. And Marvin Harrison Jr. is a spectacular player.
Actually, I think Jake Moody, I voted for the Lou Groza Award this morning. And it might have been a little bit of recency bias, but he was in my top 3.
Yeah, he wasn't my – we're not supposed to divulge that, but he was in my top 3 too. Yeah. Okay, anything out of that? And let's take a break, come back with Tim Brando, and that will be fun.
Most teams would have been neutered by losing a player like Smith and Jigba at wide receiver, and they are just perfectly fine and not really a big deal at all. It's, obviously love to have him, and it makes a difference. Don't get me wrong, but, rather than it destroying and potentially costing you a couple of games, they just have, just next man up at wide receiver. They're wide receiver you right now. I know you can argue LSU or whoever else you want to throw in that mix, but it's awfully impressive what they built at Ohio State in that receiver room.
It's like they have a 3D printer in there, and they
it's not just it's like 5-star dudes, dudes that anybody would kill to have, and they have 2 or 3 of them at any given time. It's amazing.
Yeah, they have had a run, and they're recruiting a player that I've seen Micah. Is it Micah Hudson, the young man from Lake Belton, who's he looks, and I'm not saying because I don't know about height and weight, but he looks just like the kind of player you would see with a Garrett Wilson. I'm not saying it's Garrett Wilson, but that kind
he's
of
a 5-star wide receiver. Like he's getting that type of
Olave, or in the case of others. Paxton goes, you guys have not talked. He's joking. I know you are about Bijan. Oh no, we slobbered all over him. You must have missed that segment like Kansas missed tackling him. He's what you think. He's great. I think he's like a player who runs on skates on ice. He's that good, but he also has power.
Yeah, he's silky smooth. There's not much to say other than just you sound like you are slobbering all over the guy because he's great. I just don't. it goes without saying, quite frankly. I know that's, you don't want to hear that. You want to hear as much as you can about it, but it kind of just does. Like you just mentioned Bijan, and everybody knows what you're talking about. They know what you're dealing with and what you're referring to. And he's a one-name guy. He's a one-name guy. That's the
Bijan,
best compliment I can give him, is he's a one-name guy, and that says it all right there. So, yeah, he's incredible. They're going to miss him. I don't care how many 5-star running backs. When his day comes, which you assume it will be here in a couple months, he'll announce he's going probably to the NFL draft, and no one will bat an eye at that. But, yeah, I don't care who you recruited behind him. That's a special player, and I think, some will probably roll their eyes of like, he's such a good, good on the field, off the field and all that. But like our experience with Bijan at Big 12 Media Days, I mean, I know that doesn't tell us who the guy is through and through, but he was an exceptionally graceful and kind dude, and I really enjoyed talking to him. And he's just got a future as bright as his smile, man. He's a guy. He's a absolute star.
All right, thank you very much. One of the questions on the text, we'll go to Brando later on. We'll get to this maybe later if we can. Do you think Sonny Dykes' decision not to kick the onside kick was not to put Baylor in a potential 4th and short at midfield or in TCU territory, knowing Aranda would more than likely go for it in that situation? Rich Boone. Rich, great question. And that could have been something he did, but I think he felt good about the defense after the drive before that. Wait. Go ahead.
I have to say something about the whole Aranda thing, because I just saw there's an account, it's called like Message Board Geniuses, and I don't know if they get like sent screenshots or if they just have access to all these sites, and they take the most ridiculous of college football takes off of message boards, because man, there are some ridiculous takes and conversations across college football message boards, and they highlight them. And they had one with Baylor, somebody talking about Dave Aranda, like he's got to go, he doesn't know what he's doing, and all that. Like, when people look at that game, and this is going back to Jeff Grimes as well. Jeff Grimes sucks. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's a Broyles Award guy through and through. He's going to be a head coach here very soon, and not like just like some schlub school either, but like a major, probably Power 5 school. Like, they didn't lose that game because of play calling, ultimately. They didn't lose that game because Dave Aranda wasn't fired up on the sidelines enough. They made just so many mistakes, and they still lost by 1 point. I get the frustration, but them losing by 1 point in a game where you missed a field goal after you overthrew a wide open touchdown, to your wide receiver, you throw an interception in the red zone, like that's not coaching. That's not coaching.
No, the game plan offensively
was fine. The game plan was great.
Could they have been even more open on a drive or two? Sure. But you still had opportunities to run for a first down on the next to the last drive and throw for one on the last drive. It didn't happen. I was asked this question, speaking of what you said.
They cost themselves maybe on a couple of play calls, but they didn't lose because of the play calls.
Execution versus the calls that are made is a big thing.
Time of possession kept TCU off the field.
You know why? Because it's easier to blame the guy in the headset than the guy on the field.
All right. And this question from the 817 about was Aranda overrated? We don't have. You're never as genius as they say, and now here's the deal: 2-7, 12-2, 6-5. He's learning himself. He's a young head coach. But, yeah, I mean, I'm not saying he is, because last year he was fantastic. Different circumstances, but you're never as good as they say you are. You're never as bad as perhaps you say are. That's another great topic, and we'll have that. We'll need to do that if we can tomorrow. This is 365 Sports.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street in Waco. You know what? If you're not able to go there to Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, you just get on DoorDash, and you can order on DoorDash. If you don't feel like you have time to get out of the car and you want to go drive through window, you can do that. They have made getting their product at the store as easy as it possibly can be. And it's great to just go in there, look around, see what the cool new displays are, what the new things are, what they're trying out, what the new promotions are. And look, if you're a fan of Texas whiskeys, they've got the best variety. If you're a fan of craft beers, they've got the best variety in Waco. So you cannot go wrong with anything. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street behind the bank. Check him out on Instagram and DoorDash.
The wait is over. Richard Carr GMC has the trucks. 2022 GMC Sierras have hit the lot, and they're waiting for you. Sierra trucks offer best-in-class towing, strong steel beds, multi-pro tailgates, and advanced features that make driving a Sierra second to none. Trucks are waiting for you to test drive now. So call now, log in now, or get here now and drive your next truck today at Richard Carr.
Richard Carr, they have the truck for you.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, cause weight gain, and wreak havoc on your sexual desire and performance. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results, so if you're tired of being tired, I challenge you to man up and Google search Low T Waco or go online pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $150 a month, includes lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, follow-up visits compared to $395 a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T is board-certified physician consultations, will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone available. Contact Petty Clinic Low T today. Just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway, Petty Clinic Low T, helping men become the high-performance men they deserve to be. PettyClinicLowT.com or Google search Low T Waco.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses. When it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why we take the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott in Conroe at 936-756-7717. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your home for holiday favorites for parties or time with the family, with various specials available while supplies last in store or ordering by phone, including 8 to 10 pound half spiral hams at $4.15 a pound, 12-pound pit hams at $4.35 a pound, 8 to 22 pound bone-in hams for $3.40 a pound, 14 to 16 pound whole raw turkeys at $2.85 a pound, and $4.80 a pound for 9 to 12 pound whole smoked turkeys, 6 to 8 pound mini pit hams for $5.99 a pound. Limit 4 of each item per customer. Call in advance to ensure availability or drop by Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco. Waco Custom Marketplace, your full-service butcher shop for customized orders or cuts of your favorite steaks or beef tenderloin or specially ordered prime rib roast. WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
And there's that tight end Johnson in motion. He gets to the edge and scores.
St. Johnson, the ball carrying the end zone to the Bears.
He's a 5-tool tight end.
The 5 o'clock hour is brought to you by Edward Jones Investments and financial advisor Chuck Verno, who'll navigate you through today's financial climate. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
And here we go, this 5 o'clock hour, and it has been too long. Tim Brando, Fox Sports, has been a great friend of the show, and it's great to have him on again. He has Kansas and Kansas State, which has Big 12 championship game implications. Tim Brando with us, with Paul Craig and David Smoak. How you been, fella?
Wonderful. I got out of the frozen north and had a pretty busy week last week. Fellas, I'm looking forward to doing some Big 12 basketball, I got to tell you, and that'll start pretty soon, I'm told. But I spent, let's see, I flew out Tuesday last week to New York, New Jersey, Newark. Had Seton Hall in Iowa on Wednesday night in hoops and the Gavitt games. Then Thursday, I had St. John's in Nebraska. Flew out Friday morning early into sub-zero temperatures in Minnesota. we got the Floyd of Rosedale Trophy taken care of, and those Iowa Hawkeyes are probably going to be playing for a Big Ten title with the worst offense in Division I college football because their defense is also maybe the best defense in Division I college football. We got that taken care of, and now home for a few days. Going to have our Thanksgiving Wednesday before heading off to mini Manhattan on Thursday. So that's my world, and welcome to it.
Tim, you know Kirk Ferentz, and you've worked with him, doing these games. If I could go there and tell him, you can get in Doc Brown's time machine and go back to 1925 and be a football coach, would he be like, yeah, I'm cool with that?
I know, listen, especially younger fans and younger broadcasters feel as you do. I get that. And look, I would love, and Spencer Tillman spent a lot of time in our game saying, you got a really gifted back right there. Okay. This kid, Caleb Johnson, is really, he may be a, one of those once every decade running backs. Let him catch a pass every now and then, just have him as a second or third option on the read, as opposed to just lining up in the I formation and playing small ball, which is really all Iowa does. And Spencer, but I got to say this to you as well. And this is a byproduct maybe to some degree of my age and maybe a little bit of wisdom too. Okay. I'd like to say with age comes some wisdom. We can all adapt and adjust. And I think that in Kirk Ferentz's case, and especially in a place like Iowa, where conference titles for years and years and years have always mattered, and if you could not win the overall national championship in that state, no big deal. We want conference titles and Rose Bowl. Okay, that's what the Big Ten was founded on for many, many years, long before he started coaching as a head coach. Okay, when he was working for Hayden Fry. I think that's the mindset, and his administration, fellas, the people that run that university are really comfortable with that mindset. And that's his mindset. All right. And it's tried and true. He's got, Phil Parker's got to be the best defensive coordinator, maybe in the modern history of college football. Just look at their defensive numbers. And, it was one of those games. I don't know if, listen, you're in the Big 12. There are a lot of other games to watch besides the one we had. But, Spencer and I just kind of looked at each other in the timeout, and I said, this game has been clean. We haven't had a turnover yet. And I'm guessing every time I do an Iowa game, somebody asks me, well, what do you think Iowa's chances are? And I say, well, how many points do you think the defense can score? and literally 2 plays after I said that, Jack Campbell picked off a pass that should have been a touchdown. They said he stepped out of bounds, but he didn't. But because he stepped out of bounds, it was more of a slow death for Minnesota. They wound up losing by a field goal with just a few seconds left and no time on the clock. If he had scored the touchdown, they would have at least had an opportunity to tie the game and more time on the clock and maybe a timeout or two. But I'm with you. It is outdated what they're doing, but in Iowa, and it's, at least with his administration, with the people that govern and make the decisions as to who's going to be the head football coach there, they're satisfied with that. And I will tell you, there's not a finer man I've ever met. No better gentleman in college football than Kirk Ferentz. But he's got an issue here, and part of that issue is, of course, because his son Brian is the offensive coordinator. And how this thing untangles itself over time. And I guess it probably will whenever there's a change with the president or the AD. You'll either have to adjust or it'll all come to an end. But, boy, they do know who and what they are. You know what I mean? They have no inhibitions about, what their modus operandi is. And I, in today's world, I sort of find that refreshing. In my own maybe baby boomer, my own generation's way. I think it's kind of refreshing to see, a school and a team that plays to, what its image is. Now, the fans are feeling differently now, and ultimately they may force some change with regard to the way they govern the program. And so it's a great question, okay, and one that I cannot deliver a strong answer on because I really do respect Kirk Ferentz and what he's done over, a quarter of a century, really.
Tim, saw your latest top 10 rankings, Timmy B's top 10 that you put out every week. Georgia, Ohio State, TCU, and Michigan, your top 4. Obviously, 2 and 4 are going to play here at the end of the week. But that number 3 team there, Tim, the Horned Frogs, find a way to get it done in Waco. Last-second hurry-up field goal. Your thoughts on Sonny Dykes and the good times just continuing to roll in Fort Worth, Texas?
Well, talk about know who you are. They know who they are. And I moved them up a spot. They deserve to move up a spot over Michigan in my mind because of what they've done on the road the last 2 weeks. The pundits, all of whom you know who they are, right. Okay, of the mainstream media. Oh, Texas is going to clip them. Texas is going to get them. Oh, well, Baylor, it's revenge. Baylor's going to get them. This is too much. And, of course, the committee will say, I'm sure, well, we'd love to move them past Michigan, but, they just fall behind in all these games. If the name by that number was Texas or OU, they would be number 3. They should be number 3. Michigan was lucky to win that game against Illinois. I mean, out and out lucky to win that game. TCU has earned the right to move up a spot, in my mind. But, what you're doing at the end of these games to win is not, that's not a liability. That's an attribute. They should be rewarded for what they've done under the gun. And we were watching that game, our entire crew. We were waiting, of course, to come on the air afterwards and at Minnesota. And, we basically were predicting what was going to happen. And the 2-point conversion, by the way, it was right there. The kid dropped it. The question would be then, would they get the ball back? And once it became obvious that Baylor was going to be conservative, they opened the door for them to get the ball back. And, Max Duggan this year, if there's a guy you're going to pick for a final drive, that's the guy you're going to pick. And that's another thing, by the way. Max Duggan right now is my number 1 pick for the Heisman. We're not supposed to tell you who we're going to vote for, and I don't have to vote till the end, and I won't until championship Saturday. But, who's done more for his team to win than Max Duggan this year? But the hype, obviously, for Stroud this week, if he has a big game, Corm if he played, but I think he's hurt and won't be able to play for Michigan. But and the Caleb Williams overreaction to what was a track meet. The only difference between Caleb Williams and Dorian Thompson-Robinson this past Saturday was DTR through interceptions that Caleb didn't throw. That's why USC won that game. But Duggan has been money. Okay, he's been the best player in the biggest moments of this college football season, in my opinion.
Tim, I have a vote, and it's an honor to have one. And I know that there'll be other players around the Big 12 and around America that get a lot of attention this week, but he did. He had a scramble in that last drive that got out of bounds that saved the clock or a spike. And and then, of course, he had the quarterback draw that put him in position. But, he wasn't flawless. He didn't put up – but he had 300-some yards against the Baylor defense. And you're right. He just kind of has that it in his neck – factor, and I agree with you. I don't know who I'd vote for today, but I don't have to. But he has to be in that conversation.
Right. And the fact that he's not even mentioned that much, okay, just tells you the bias that's out there. Okay. It's, and I love having a vote. Don't get me wrong. I'm honored to have a Heisman vote. But the Heisman voting process and who's been winning the Heisman in the last 15 or so years has lost a lot of its luster for me because it's so highly predictable in my mind. Okay. it really sort of doesn't matter what happens all season. It matters what happens in big games that get high ratings at the end of the year. I mean, that's basically what it's come down to. And that's really unfortunate in my mind. The best player, the most outstanding player for an entire season is sort of the way I look at this award. I still have that view of it. And he's been making plays all year. Think about it. He lost his job to Chandler Morris after Chandler, had that great game against Baylor a year ago. That was the game Spencer and I had in Fort Worth last year. It wound up costing Baylor an opportunity to be in the college football playoff when you look back on it. This was supposed to be their revenge game, and Baylor played well. Look, Blake Chapin, I thought, had a great game. I mean, a great game. And I texted my friends, Brock Hewitt and Jason Benetti, both of whom I think the world of, and Jason's just an extraordinary young play-by-play guy and a magnificent story. If you haven't read it, you should, about Jason. He's a wonderful guy and has overcome so much in his life. I thought that they chronicled and documented the game beautifully. And at one point, Brock even mentioned that Blake was from my hometown, which I got a thrill out of hearing because I'm my hometown. And his uncle is Hal Sutton, who's a dear friend of mine, and his father's a friend of mine. As well as his wife, Hal's sister. I didn't think that Baylor really lost the game. I thought TCU just went out, played like champions, and won it. Okay? Baylor's in great shape for the future. I really believe that. I had Baylor being in TCU's position if you go back to the summer. You guys know that.
Yep.
A lot of us did, yeah.
TCU is performing the exploits that I thought would be Baylor. But the reason they're doing it is because Max Duggan has just been exemplary. Okay? Johnson is a big-time receiver. Baylor doesn't have anybody like him. Not many teams have anyone quite like Johnson. Having him healthy is important. They didn't have Darius Davis, who I think is their second-best go-to guy in the game against Baylor. Another Louisiana kid, by the way. I think that TCU not only can get to this playoff, but they can win it. I mean, they can win the national championship. They are that good. There are teams out there that they just match up beautifully with. I think the best thing that could happen to TCU right now is to play anybody outside the Big 12.
Yeah.
Because the Big 12 knows how to defend them. But Duggan has just made enough plays to overcome, the great scouting reports that have been out there. That game was the best game I've seen all year. I just thought it was I thought the TCU K-State game we had about a month ago in Fort Worth was when I really felt like, my God, this is incredible what I'm seeing here in this second half, because K-State lit them up in the first half. But a possible rematch is going to be off the charts if that happens between those two teams. And so if TCU does get to the playoffs, then I think they've really earned it. And if they have to beat K-State twice to get there, I mean, anybody thinks that they're going to roll over them just because of the name of the school they're playing against? Forget about it. I mean, TCU is a legitimate national championship potential team if they can beat K-State twice.
Tim, I think that I saw some college football pundits kind of saying this weekend was the reason that, the expanded playoff is going to make it worse because it's hard to find teams that, are really the elite ones. But to me, it was the inverse in that you're seeing the effects of NIL and the transfer portal and other teams getting deeper and better and getting some of that talent that the other teams used to hoard away because you couldn't leave. And that if there were 12 teams in it this week, man, I like how tense I would have been from 11 o'clock in the morning until midnight.
Oh, my God. Absolutely. The only people that don't want this, okay, are the elitists that just want to keep it in their private club. The Bamas, the Clemsons, the Ohio States, those fan bases, they know their percentages are better if there's only 4 teams. I mean, that's literally it. But what's really amazing to me is how much of the media is so damn lazy. They don't want to have to cover, 12 teams. They prefer just having to know something about 4 teams. And that's where some of that crap comes from. It's also some of the old propaganda that was put out by the college football playoff for so many years, saying, "Oh, we don't want to make the regular season is only going to be enhanced. The whole month of November will go through the roof with more viewership if we have a race for 12 positions rather than 4." And as I've stated to you guys many times over, I really think by the time the decision is made to start it, whether it's in 25 or 26, I think we're going to go to 16, not 12. So get ready for it.
Tim, you were if you don't mind, with college basketball and Houston's about to be a part of the conference. They're number 2. Right. Kansas is 4. Texas 5 or 3 or 4. Baylor's like 7 after the loss on Friday to Virginia. Can you imagine what it is now, much less what's going to be in the future, even with Texas leaving?
Hey, I'm through the roof about the potential of doing Big 12 basketball. I mean, I am. I've missed it. I haven't done a game at Fog Allen since 2012 when I was still at CBS. I haven't been, any of the Big 12 schools I haven't been to in that long a period of time. And, the level of play is just, everybody's good. Everybody is good in Big 12 basketball. And so, and I'm not going to lie, I'll drive to Waco. I'll drive to Fort Worth. Hell, I'll drive to Stillwater. I enjoy those drives. So it's more convenient for me too, because I'm traveling, generally speaking, to the Big Ten and the Big East all the time. I do a Pac-12 game here and there, but rarely. And by the time we get there, I don't know that we'll have the Pac-12 contract or not. They may be on Amazon by that time. I don't know, but I'm thrilled about the potential of getting to come in there during the winter and see, Drew's team and to be around college basketball in the Big 12 Conference again. It's the deepest and the best league in America, has been for probably about a half dozen years. And, I'm a big fan of the game, as you well know. So I'm excited about it.
If you don't mind, one final thing. You were talking about how cold it was. What's the coldest you've ever been? Do you remember broadcasting a television game?
Yeah. I was called in to do a CBS NFL game around 2004 or 5. Fred Taylor, I remember, was playing for the Jaguars. Brunell was still the quarterback, and they were playing the Bengals in Cincinnati, and it was one of those really cold days in Cincinnati, with the wind coming off the river, and it was just. And they asked me to do a hit for the NFL Today. So, for whatever reason, the producers of the studio show wanted the play-by-play guys to come out and do reports on every game that was going to be on CBS that day. And it was snowing, and the wind was probably 20, 25 miles per hour. And they wanted me to do a bit on the different shoes that were going to be worn. So that meant that I had to hold 2 sets of shoes up. And I remember going out, setting up to do it. It's snowing, and the wind is blowing. And I could feel my chin and my nose beginning to freeze over. And as I was holding I'm holding a mic in one hand, and I'm holding the shoes in another hand and showing the cleats. And when I got done, Smoak, I went inside. They had because I had to hurry to the booth. I'm gonna be on the air doing the game in like 30 minutes. They had some hot chocolate waiting for me. And I guess I got a little lesson in biology. I was so cold. I had 5 layers on. Okay, 5 layers. I'm still so frozen that when I took down the hot chocolate, I literally felt the hot chocolate go down my throat and through my veins. I found out that warm whatever's warm that you take down when you're that cold, and I was probably close to frostbite, you can feel it going through your body. Like, I felt it going down my throat, past my heart, through the chest, down into the, I was like, oh my God. I mean, I don't know whatever the tubes are that stuff goes through. I felt it in each individual tube. It was like, oh my God. It was a little bit of a rush. You know, it was kind of like, oh my God, now I know. I was told that, our bodies were built a certain way, and now I know it. I was that cold.
Yeah.
That's the coldest.
And people think you're inside of a booth that's protected. Yeah. Nope, not at all. Tim, thank you as always. Can't wait to talk to you. Hopefully, though, the next couple of weeks as we find out evidence and also the college playoff as well. We always appreciate your time. We've missed you on the show. Thank you.
Thanks, Smoak. It's always good to be with you, and you guys do a great job. I'm always here.
Thank you very much. Tim Brando, Fox Sports, and many different stories, including just the college basketball, but also the weekend and his thoughts about Max Duggan and where he is in the conversation.
By the way, the truest thing he said in the whole thing is Jason Benetti is as good as there is. I'm telling you, every time I get to watch a game that Jason and Brock are doing, I'm thrilled about it. Brock's great, and we've had him on the show several times. He's a great analyst, really great energy. I would kind of compare him favorably to Tony Romo in that, like, the energy he brings to a booth. Benetti is so good at delivering the game and the way he does it. I love it. Like, if I'm going to turn on a game and it's him, it's
you know what I like about it? It's never about him.
No, it's so great.
He calls the game very, very well. We're very fortunate with a lot of the broadcasters that are a part of it right now. And RG3 continues to have his bullet rise north with the color analyst and what he's getting, the attention he's getting. All right, when we come back, we will check in with David Hellman on the Cowboys destroyed. And maybe you wonder how the hell the Vikings respond after being humiliated at home by the Cowboys, and it wasn't even close at all. That's coming up next on 365 Sports. But first of all, Brazos oral and facial surgery. Dental implants, I've had that done by Dr. Scott Warren. It was an amazing process and one that I was very worried about. And in fact, I've been told for a long time that I should get implants for a couple of the teeth, my teeth that were not doing well. And I was like, man, that just doesn't sound good. Not only that, but it's also expensive. It can cost you a lot of money. Dr. Scott Warren and his staff set me up to do what I needed to do to take away, first of all, kind of like a little bit of that, oh my God, what's this about? This is surgery, oral surgery. What he and his staff did was amazing to me. And it got to a point where I couldn't wait to get to the process. And when I was done, I was like, why in the hell did I wait as long as I did to get it done? Brazos oral and facial surgery, dental implants, wisdom teeth, other services, they do it. You can be a part of it. They're off of 84 in Woodway. The staff does an incredible job, and Dr. Scott Warren has been someone I would recommend any kind of dental oral surgery without blinking to what he does. Dental implants and more. Dental implants and more that you will look back and go, why didn't I do it earlier? At Brazos Oral and Facial Surgery and Dr. Scott Warren.
Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Colgan Ford. It's that time of year. It's football season, and BK Ford is a proud supporter of the best high school football teams in Texas, right here in Central Texas. BK Ford is proud to sell the #1 truck in Texas, the F-Series truck, led by our leading rusher, the F-150, 45 years in a row. Lock in your best price and rate today by custom ordering your new F-150 at BK Ford. Simple, easy, trusted. Experience better at Bird Colgan Ford.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. The team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injuries, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneerboys.com.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Howdy, Chet Garner here, professional guide, searching for bears in the wild. But not just any bears, oh no, a particular kind. With hundreds of thousands roaming freely in the wild, yet still hard to spot unless you know the signs. There they are, Baylor bears. If you're a bear enthusiast or even a bear yourself, join me and let's find some bears in the wild.
Join the expedition at baylor.edu/alumni.
Genco's Black Friday Cyber Monday Auto Loan Special is here. Apply for your auto loan online and receive a 0.15% loan discount. Plus, every auto loan gets 90 days with no payments. Then have a chance to win 90 more days with no payments. Black Friday Cyber Monday only at Genco. This special runs till December 2nd. Every online application gets an additional discount plus 90 days no payments. Only at Genco. Subject to credit approval, membership eligibility, and loan policies. For more information, go to gencofcu.org, member NCUA.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
First and goal. He's found 5 different targets. He's going to hand it off. It's Pollard, and he's across for the Dallas touchdown.
It's time for our weekly segment with David Hellman of FoxSports.com.
And here we go. Cowboys yesterday, and I got to tell you, that was absolutely bloodletting. And what they did to Kirk Cousins the first time he was in a position to throw it, he gets sacked, fumble, game almost over. David Hellman, Fox Sports, does a great job with him. David, isn't that what tantalizes us, to whoever, analysts or fans, in what we saw yesterday in Minnesota with the Cowboys?
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. I mean, that was the ceiling. Shoot, that might be as good as I've ever seen the Cowboys play. That's, I wasn't there for the triplets. I get it, but that's a decade worth of games. And I think that's the best I've ever seen them play. I mean, the talent is evident in the important places. And yeah, like I said, it's a great way to put it. It's tantalizing to know that they can play that well. And, do I really think the Vikings are a great team? Not really, but that is a team that's going to be in the playoffs this year. So to do that against the playoff team carries a lot of weight. And yeah, now it's just about maintaining that. I mean, you're not going to win every game 40-3, but we know what it looks like when this team is on and playing up to its capabilities. And I think that's the expectation now, is to see how consistently they can try to reach that ceiling.
My opinion on Mike McCarthy, I wouldn't say has completely flipped, because I was, waiting to see what was going to happen, but has kind of evolved and changed in a much more positive light based on how he has been able to adapt Dan Quinn and everybody to the ups and downs of the season. And that game was their masterpiece because, you go after a week where it's been not only that, but the weeks before, you haven't really been able to stop the run all that well. And not that they stopped Dalvin Cook all that much. I mean, he still had a pretty decent day as far as the average per carry goes, but they just completely rendered it inert because they got ahead by so much.
Yeah, it turns out scoring points on 7 straight possessions to start the game can do a lot to mitigate a running game. I think it's as simple as that. Yeah, I don't know that the Cowboys really did a whole lot to change their run defense. It still looked like Dalvin Cook was getting 6 to 7 yards a pop to me, but you just take that weapon out of a team's arsenal when you score points every time you go down the field. 7 straight possessions with points and 8 out of 10 on the game with points. That's going to be a winning strategy 99 out of 100 times. But yeah, I agree with you. I think people keep waiting for Mike McCarthy to be this elite difference maker on game day, and I just don't know that he ever will be that. But you can't say enough about his impact culturally, the way that he keeps his team focused, the way that he gets his team refocused after a setback. Obviously, he's not coaching the defense, but I think you have to give him a ton of credit for hiring Dan Quinn, then wanting Dan Quinn to stick around despite the fact that it might cause a distraction. All that stuff. Like I said, I don't know if Mike McCarthy really gives you a decided advantage on game day. In fact, I'm pretty confident that he doesn't. But all that other CEO stuff that head coaches are responsible for, he really seems to have the Cowboys in a good place. And it's evidenced by the fact that, I don't want to write the story too soon, but they certainly look like they're poised to go back to the playoffs for a second consecutive year, which is the type of sustained success that has eluded this franchise for a long, long time.
David, with all due respect, Kirk Cousins, at times we know he's had those games in which he just doesn't have it. A lot of times primetime games, but sacked 7 times. It seemed like he was harassed almost every single time. He's got weapons, and, of course, Justin Jefferson didn't get a chance to do much. Is there any quarterback other than maybe Mahomes or maybe Josh Allen who could have somehow produced anything against Dallas yesterday?
Yeah, I don't even know about Mahomes. Maybe Josh, because of how big and athletic he is, maybe he can get out of a few of those sacks and pick up some rushing yards and get outside the pocket better than most quarterbacks. And that's, I don't even really put yesterday on Kirk Cousins. He straight up did not have a chance. And maybe he could have protected the ball better on the Micah Parsons strip sack. But by and large, 6 of those 7 sacks, the pass rusher was on him before he could even survey his reads. Just a dominant performance. Obviously, I think you have to note that Christian Darrisaw, who is a very promising left tackle for Minnesota, he left the game very early on. I'm guessing that didn't make things easier on Minnesota. But yeah, I don't know how many quarterbacks on earth could have done anything with the type of pressure Kirk was facing yesterday. That was even by the Cowboys standards, which we've got a pretty high standard for this group based on what they've done. And even by their standards, yesterday was pretty terrifying.
They've got the Giants on short rest, who are coming off a loss against the Lions. That's a much improved Giants team, but they've already played them once this year. David, I know that Saquon Barkley will get a heavy dose of the action early, but how do you expect the game to go on Thursday?
This is what we were just talking about. It's tantalizing when they do that, because now you half expect them to just come out flat and play a terrible game and even maybe, if not lose, then at least struggle to put this Giants team away. But that should not happen. Every advantage skews the Cowboys' way in this game. The Giants' offensive line is not wonderful. Saquon Barkley is having a fantastic season, but he's having to do a lot of that himself. The Giants' receiver situation is a travesty. I feel bad. Wandale Robinson, their young rookie receiver, He's out for the year after getting hurt against the Lions yesterday. They lost Adoree Jackson to an injury yesterday. So their defense, which is already kind of short on playmakers, loses another guy who's having a nice year. With the way, I think the Cowboys sacked Daniel Jones 5 times the first time they played him. This shouldn't be a game that the Cowboys are sweating in the fourth quarter. I'm not saying they're going to win 40-3, but this is a very one-dimensional Giants team. And if the Cowboys offense can reliably score points the way that they have the last 2 weeks, I mean, even against Green Bay, they scored 28. 28 should be plenty enough to beat this team, especially if you can go up early by, 2 or 3 scores, go up 14 points, 17 points, and really force Daniel Jones to have to throw. It just doesn't sound like a recipe for success. I mean, this is a game the Cowboys should win by like 16 or 17 points, but therein lies the rub. They're the Dallas Cowboys. So how much do you trust them to actually do that? We will see.
If the season ended today, would the entire NFC East be in the playoffs?
That's a good question. I haven't looked, so I don't know. But just going off the top of my head, it probably depends on the result of this Niner-Cardinal game tonight. My guess is that if the Niners win, they would take that last wild card spot. But what a turnaround by Washington for us to even be having that conversation. I don't know if Taylor Heinicke is their long-term future, but I think they've won 4 out of 5 since Carson Wentz got hurt against Chicago. So, I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility that the entire division makes it, which is a crazy thing to say the week of Thanksgiving.
And their defense is starting to play like it did when they made the run a couple of years ago and Chase Young is coming back. I'm not saying they're that dynamic like the Cowboys, but they sure do seem to be a team that is full throttle. David, LSU right on the cusp. Are they going to seal the deal? They play the Aggies. They should win that game handily, a win away from the SEC championship.
Yeah, they better. Georgia's cool and all, but look, LSU's playing with house money at this point. Like, I expected this team to go like 9-3, so they've outpaced my expectations. They're going to play for a conference championship. I don't expect them to win. It would be fun if they did. But what I do expect is for them to smash A&M because they are, what was the final score of their game against, they beat UMass by like 2 score. Like, they're a mess. They're a mess. And like, I know it's the SEC. I know it's A&M wants it to be a rivalry game. I guess we can call it that for the purposes of this. But like, I'm expecting LSU to win that game by very many points, and I will be very disappointed if they don't.
David, that stadium, Kyle Field, looked like the Rose Bowl in the early season the other day, and that never happens.
You mean
there.
Empty?
Empty.
Yeah, the weather.
I'm actually going. I'm coming to Dallas for Thanksgiving. I'm going to cover the Cowboy game, and then I'm going to drive down to College Station because I haven't been to an LSU game this year. And I'm curious to see what it looks like. Obviously they're called the 12th man. They obviously support their team through thick and thin. But the weekend of Thanksgiving at the end of this season, I will be very curious to see what the stadium looks like. Because how could you blame people for not wanting to go support that right now? So I'm very much looking forward to seeing what it looks like down there. And I was at the 7 overtime game that LSU lost a couple of years ago, so I'm hoping it's a lot less stressful this time around.
David, if you use tantalizing on Fox Sports, you don't have to credit me. Use it, though. It's a great word to use with the Cowboys right now. Thank you, buddy.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank y'all.
David Hellman, Fox Sports. Couple of quick notes, and then Paul's top 5. Baylor yesterday beat UCLA after losing after a disastrous start in the second half to Virginia. They're now ranked 7th in the country. Carolina's 1, Houston 2, Kansas and Texas 3 and 4. Texas mauled Gonzaga. Virginia 5, Gonzaga 6. Gonzaga and Baylor play early December, and then Texas Tech is in the top 25 at 21.
Yeah, I haven't been tweeting a ton outside of just like during games, but I did pop off the tweet last night that I felt pretty good about. That Scott Drew basically saved the sanity of all. I mean, that wasn't exactly what I typed, but I mean, Baylor Athletics needed that win really badly against UCLA. So that was a nice note to end the week on versus the last couple weeks.
Well, you had the Asia Blackwell news. She didn't play, although she had the tweet up, and I think, I don't know, was it in your Good, the Bad, and the Ugly?
Yeah.
She said soon, which that I don't know what
college
that means.
kids could be tweeting out a song lyric. They could be tweeting out like the actual thing you're looking for them to be tweeting about, but like there's always a lot of teasing of like you have to hang around and wait for news, and I'm not going to do that. So she had a cryptic tweet, I guess is what you'd say, and we'll see what her status is. But yeah, that was a bummer. They lost.
I thought that,
football obviously the last couple of weeks getting beat at home.
I thought the women would get beat up by 10 or 15 by Maryland, so at least they hung around.
Yeah.
And the Maryland coach she's unhinged. She's really good. She's won a national title.
But I thought Baylor and UCLA though was a really good game, and it was the
good
game.
Test.
It was the game that it should have been though. That was the 5th ranked team and the 8th ranked team,
and they almost
was really
went for
close.
a national title 2 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, so that absolutely went how it should have gone. It really should have. UCLA's fun to watch. Baylor's fun to watch. They've got some growing up to do. I think. We saw like Flo Thamba at the end of the game made 2 big plays.
Yeah, he did.
He needs to do that in the beginning of the game sometimes so that they don't fall into some of these ruts. But Keontae George has to be not a freshman sometimes, but he's already a superstar.
I'm not going to question.
So, I'm not going to question.
He missed some shots yesterday.
He's not he can be better. He can definitely be better. But you see the star makings in him absolutely dripping with talent. Then Flagler was great. Cryer was great.
28. Cryer was named Big 12 Offensive Player of the Week, by the way.
Flagler kind of showed in that game that he's got that. I got it. Mm-hmm. I got it that you need.
At times, he's almost stuck between being a scorer and a point guard, and but he calmed things down. They don't have much offense inside. Bridges, I'm trying to figure out who he is. Maybe just somebody that does a lot of little things.
West Virginia fans will say that, in terms of, I saw some people going like, man, Bridges really ain't scoring a lot, and they were like, ha ha ha, ha ha ha. See, we told they were. Told you so mode.
He doesn't have to either.
Right.
He just needs to get some rebounds, a steal, play
but
some
he's
defense.
also scored in games already this year. So,
by the way, Baylor has Marquette on the 29th of this month. Gonzaga on December 2nd. Texas has Creighton, and that's a top 10 team in Creighton, the Blue Jays, on December 1st. And they have Illinois on the 6th, and they vaulted up as they should have. They should have moved up after hammering Gonzaga. And look who Gonzaga's played. They beat Kentucky yesterday. So they've got a hell of a schedule. Good for them and good for college basketball. This has been fun to watch some of these early season games. Sports tonight at 10:30 on the CW channel. And then also our pregame Friday. Paul and I will be in the studio. It will be a 9 o'clock pregame Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, Baylor against Texas. Come back with Paul's Top 5. That's next on 365 Sports.
This month, Allen Samuelson Waco is having the Black Friday sales event. You can save big on the new 2022 Ram 1500 Crew Cab with total values up to $4,250 with 2.9% for 72 months. That's right, plus an extra $500 bonus cash to first responders and no payments until January 2023. Shop an award-winning dealership with award-winning product. Allen Samuelson Waco, the place to shop Ram trucks.
Come by, let's be friends.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like our free First mobile app, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. That's the First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears!
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year, whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
Don Humidor, you're home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwood Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55.
Top 5 things we saw this weekend. I'm kind of enjoying these little recaps and throwing these out and getting people's opinions, especially you.
By the way, congratulations to the Seminoles.
Yeah, I got Brock Lynn. So that's,
no, I'm not talking recruiting because you hate recruiting, but they're in the like ozone now.
They've got to beat the Gators this week. Otherwise, part of me will consider this season a bit of a failure. But what Mike Norvell has done this year is really impressive. I think
they've done a nice job. And I thought we talked about both them and my favorite team a little bit much this year, but now they earned that.
Yeah, and again, they got to beat the Gators this week. So, number 5, playoff pretenders exposed. And you know, North Carolina
5.
Yeah. Well, there's other things we got to talk about, but this is what I wanted to lead off with. North Carolina and Tennessee. You're out of the discussion now. Tennessee, look, South Carolina is an improving team under Shane Beamer, and Spencer Rattler finally looked like the player that he was recruited to be at Oklahoma and expected to be. Had a fantastic game. You don't give up 63 points and make the playoff. I'm sorry. SEC Shorts was hilarious about it this week, by the way, too. And North Carolina, I'm sorry, you can't lose to Georgia Tech and be considered ready to go. Now, they've got a lot of potential moving down the line. North Carolina does, especially with Drake May coming back. But, man, how disappointing it has to be for those two fan bases this week.
Yeah, I mean, on the one thing, on the North Carolina side of things, Drake May, I guess, maybe reading newspaper clippings, starting to read those mock drafts. I don't know. I don't want to put all the blame on him per se, but he did not have a good night. They were down 17-0, they were up 17-0. Y'all realize that?
Yes.
They were up 17-0.
So I don't know about reading headlines, but maybe he got comfortable.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's just. I'm saying read headlines in terms of he did not have a good game.
Right.
I mean, they were up 17-0, and they didn't score after that. So blanked in the second half. Scored 21-0 from the second quarter on, and just not what you'd expect, man. Not the performance that you'd expect. Not the stat line that you'd expect from May. Not the just not going to get it done, and a brutal way for North Carolina to lose that game. So yeah, that was awful. And then Tennessee, I mean, Hendon Hooker, that injury was, obviously just the worst thing in the world that you hate to see that after the great year that he's had. So I mean, part of me with Tennessee fans getting as blistery as they got the last few weeks, part of me's kind of like, gotcha. But at the same time, they were having a terrific run. No, I'm saying, just the evil part of me. But no, at the same time, I was like, not over the injury. I'm saying the loss, not cheering the injury. But Josh Downs, going back to that North Carolina, I mean, that was brutal stuff.
Yeah, that was a 12-play, 58-yard drive, and took 5 minutes off the clock, and he catches it. It's over. There was time left, but you catch the pass, and you take the lead, and a good receiver, one of the better receivers in college football, dropped it. It was right there at his fingertips.
Number 4.
By the way, no, go ahead.
Number 4, Heisman candidate shakeup. Right now, I think Caleb Williams is probably shot to the top of that. C.J. Stroud's still in there, and I do think that we got to put Max Duggan in my top 3. I'll do the top 5 on this tomorrow, actually. Tip of the cap to Roger Dodger, who called me out on not having Caleb Williams last week, but it's a week-to-week thing, and dropping Drake May and Hendon Hooker down because of those losses was what I would do. Because I'm trying to look at the whole season, and in the biggest moment, Caleb Williams stepped up big. Now, look, they've got to beat Notre Dame this week, and then they've got to probably go play Oregon in the Big 12 or the Pac-12 title game. So that's going to go a long way for him, and we'll see what C.J. Stroud does this weekend. We'll see what Max Duggan does over the next 2 games that he plays to do this. Corum looks like he's going to be out, which really sucks for him. Although, if he's out and they lose, I might put him number 1 because who's the most valuable player to Michigan? I don't know. He's been fantastic. So, but that's certainly shaken up this week in a way maybe it hasn't happened in the last few years.
Corum's definitely their in Michigan MVP. I mean, there's not even a question about that. He's their offense and has been their offense all year. I mean, he puts up huge numbers week after week after week, big carries, multi-touchdown games every week. So, yeah, that's significant for them. Y'all realize that was the second top 25 team USC has played?
Yes. No, that's one of the things that Pat 40 on his 40-yard dash was discussing the up and down of the Heisman Trophy voting, and that's the one thing that's a con.
And that's the thing with C.J. Stroud, too, is you look at who Ohio State's played. It's very similar to that. Now, granted, Michigan will flip that on its head, and USC's schedule these last couple weeks with Notre Dame and then probably Oregon. I mean, that will add. So that'll even itself out. But then I just say that because we start hearing about, like, put Caleb Williams in the front of the Heisman or put this guy. And it's like, look at their schedules. Like, that's part of the reason why maybe they're not. Now, on the other hand, it doesn't make any sense for why Max Duggan's not getting any love whatsoever because he has a far superior resume. A far superior resume to a Caleb Williams, for example, outside of like touchdowns and yardage and that kind of deal. But like I think it's silly that Max Duggan's getting basically no play, at least in the corners that I look. And there might be a person or two like, oh yeah, and Max Duggan, but it's always like trailing at the very end. It's never he's a favorite. It's never any of that. But yeah, there was a shakeup. Corum obviously not being a part of the stretch run potentially is going to be huge. Williams and Stroud's competition ramping up will be big. But yeah, give Max Duggan some love, man.
Let me tell you something. And Craig knows this. There's an email chain on something we are a part of. And Bijan Robinson was amazing, and no question about that. But it's I responded to one of them. I said, I just want to make sure everyone understands what we saw from Max Duggan. And it wasn't to get him the award or anything like that this week. It was he put a team on his back and led them to come from behind to keep alive their championship hopes in the Big 12 and maybe deeper.
I know we got to move, but I hope when they talk on the playoff show tomorrow, I don't want to hear them, well, TCU had to come from behind again. I want them to also list off the players they were missing on offense because they were not 100% full health strength by any stretch of the imagination either, but I don't know if that'll get brought up or noticed.
Yeah. Number 3, UCF's hot streak is over.
Yeah.
This is a team that was looking to be the Group of 5 team in the New Year's Six, and Navy, put him right in cement.
Just
the
Navy
midshipmen, man. The midshipmen, middies I hope they win one more game, Navy, in 2 weeks.
That was a bad loss for UCF. I mean, there's no two ways about it, given the kind of momentum that they were bringing into that thing and the feel-good nature of what they'd had done until that point, and getting the big win over Tulane. So, yeah, that's the kind of fear that you have when you play the midshipmen, is that they're going to control the football and just run it on you 1,000 times, death by 1,000 paper cuts. And fortunately, they were just the latest in a long line of victims. But, that was a bummer of a loss, man, especially being at home.
Yeah. Number 2, Clemson and USC have a shot. Now, this will be an interesting, and I think it'd probably be USC over Clemson. If Clemson wins the next 2 weeks, they would have beaten a 7-win South Carolina team, and then they would have beaten a 9 or 10 win, depending on how North Carolina fares against NC State this weekend, North Carolina team. If USC wins out, they'll have beaten what will probably ultimately would be an 8-win Notre Dame team, which is, splitting hairs, when you get down to the overall of it with South Carolina, and then a 10-win probably Oregon team, 9 or 10-win Oregon team. That's a pretty similar resume when you look down to it, and they'll both be conference champs. So that would mean, let's just say TCU, the Big Ten winner, and Georgia are all in this thing. When it comes down to the 4th spot, it would probably be USC over Clemson, but they both have a reasonable argument to make.
You're giving me a headache. But it's a good debate. You're right.
So, because, the loser of Ohio State, Michigan, has to fall behind either of these two teams who could win their conference when that team could not. So
that's just a lot for me to try to.
I get it. I just wanted to put all that scenario out there, and that they're both they're facing a very similar stretch here in the next 2 weeks before their conference title games. So, and number 1, the entire top 4 had to fight. So if the committee throws out all this stuff, every single one of them, Georgia, it was 16-6 against Kentucky, and Kentucky's good, but they had to fight. That was not they're in control of this game, and if something bad happens, they can withstand it. They could have made 2 mistakes, and that game is flipped just like that. Ohio State needed that fumble at the end of the game to really close it out, 42-30, not at all indicative of how that game went back and forth between them and a very much improved Maryland team under Mike Locksley. People need to start talking about him and what he's doing there. And, of course, we know about TCU and having a win at the last second, but that's kind of what they do. But Michigan had to fight against Illinois. So if you want to try to, dissect everybody's resume, guess what, guys? That's the same resume. If they all 4 walked in for a job that you had 1 spot on, you wouldn't be able to this guy graduated first in his class. Yep. All 4 of them are graduating first in their class right now. So that is what the committee has to look at, and they should not split hairs when it comes to these guys. It's kind of obvious. Then it gets difficult after we start getting losses next week. So.
Yep, I agree.
Yep, 3 versus 4. I mean, 2 versus 4. That's bound to happen. I mean, that's at least one guarantee this weekend.
Yeah. Yep, heck of a do. Good stuff, Paul. No question. Again, sports tonight at 10:30 tonight on the CW channel. I want to say this because Craig gave me a heads up yesterday evening. If you haven't seen it, Elton John was on Disney Plus last night. I have to mention this. And if you loved his music, you will. If you can go back and watch a replay, it was worth me getting Disney Plus. And Craig, thank you for that. That was amazing. For Jacob Wilson, Jack McKenzie, Garrett Ross as well, Levi and Emory, wherever they are. Levi's at the Tim Tebow statue somewhere in Gainesville. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, our amazing sponsors. Back at it tomorrow. And look forward to seeing you again on the chat room and also the text line. Thank you, David Smoak. Good night, 365 Sports.